to the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Matt Burtz.
Hello.
Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
JB Gwaltney.
Hey, everybody.
Oh my gosh, we have a lot to talk about on today's show. QuakeCon.
Wow.
You know, it's a convention.
I was there.
But there's this whole thing. We'll talk all about it. Most importantly, talking about Doom Eternal, Fallout 76, a little bit about Rage 2, all things Bethesda, all the time. After that, we're getting even nerdier. We got to do it. Battle for Azeroth, the World of Warcraft expansion, is out this week, and we have our two hardcore as hell experts, Andy McNamara and Dan Tack, coming in. Look, even if you don't like WoW, I think it's worth listening to that conversation just to lean back and hear these people talk about a game that they've been playing for 14 years.
It's not old enough to drink yet. Almost old enough to drive a car.
Close, yeah. Also, I noticed Andy was wearing the Sweet Vice City shirt, which I was going to make fun of him for being so old. Then everybody was like, oh, that's actually about the same time WoW came out. Just how bizarre is that? Then after that, hopefully Phantom Doctrine, new XCOM style game that Jeff seems to be enjoying quite a bit. Then with the emails at that half of the show, we're saying goodbye to our wonderful batch of Game Informer interns. We're kicking them out the door, but they're one of the best groups ever.
Yeah, they're real great.
Yeah, and they're fun. So it's a fun conversation back half of the show. So stay tuned for that. Also, quick plugs, other stuff. Walking Dead. Remember Telltale's game, Jay?
Nope.
Remember it won that Game of the Year from Jeff Keighley or something in 2012? Speaking of games that have been around forever, the final season just started. Kim Wallace reviewed it, gave it a 7. The review's on the site. Other stuff, let's see, JB, Valkyria Chronicles 4, there's a demo out.
Yep, it's pretty good. It's pretty much everything except mobile, I think. No, it's not on PC either. There's some weird thing. It's not available on PC.
Oh, wait, I think the original just went to PC like 2 years ago or something. It was a weird late burn, but you're enjoying that demo so far?
Yeah, I'm really liking it. It's, if you played the original Valkyria Chronicles or you like Fire Emblem, I check it out. Like, it's a free demo. It's good. Go play it.
They still have that weird white haze around the edge.
Yeah, like it tries to make it look like an old photograph. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Look, it's a choice. Someone made.
Right. Wait, can you see it in 4K?
Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
All right, QuakeCon. Here we go,
How's it
Reiner.
going?
Yeah, you were down there. How long were you down there? What was it like? From a Thursday until a Monday. Oh my gosh. So I think we all watched.
Thousands of people in the BYOC, bring your own computer room.
That's so much fun.
Only lit by the monitors. People hooting and hollering.
How many people are still playing Quake Champions?
That's what I want to know. There's quite a few, actually. Because during their keynote, it's like, when they mentioned Quake Champions, they got a decent reaction, decent applause. It's like, man, this is their crowd. These are the people that don't exist at E3 that actually give a shit about Quake Champions. And they announced it's free to play now, entirely.
Yeah. The game I saw the most was Overwatch. Really? Yeah, people playing Overwatch. There was a bunch of Fortnite. It's a big new release, is Dead Cells, like late at night, a lot of people playing that.
Weird.
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. You see so many games. You'll see Street Fighter tournaments, and there's thousands of people down there.
I mean, I feel like
different rigs, PCs, consoles, you name it.
Okay.
I feel like that is like the one conference out there, the big one that is like geared towards that PC crowd, though.
Oh yeah,
like
everybody
it's
brings
bigger than
stuff.
Quake and Bethesda stuff. It's like everyone who's crazy about PC is there.
Yeah, and they leave it. Overnight, they'll go up to their hotel room, just leave their rig down there.
I would go crazy. I would sleep in there with my rig.
My rig would be my pillow. Okay, it seems like the star of the show QuakeCon this year was Doom Eternal. Yeah, they promised they're going to show gameplay. I had no idea they're going to show that much gameplay. It's like
nearly 17 minutes, I think.
It's absurd. They could have done a 2-minute teaser, and I think fans would have been satisfied. But just wave after wave, just showing more and more and more different locations. Bertz, it's rare that I see you so excited. But like in our Slack channel, you were buzzing, and then you had to give like a Reiner-esque walk around the bullpen.
Hey,
like Kramer coming through the door. Like,
I was buzzing. It was like the metal was coursing through my veins.
What was it? What had you guys so excited?
I am. I'm having
honestly, like my favorite thing about the Doom reboot was when you use certain suit upgrades and runes, your character could get really fast, and you'd just be moving through, ripping and tearing these dudes like with a velocity that you usually don't see in first-person shooters. And the new one looks faster. The meat hook thing that they put on the super shotgun, where you can kind of like latch onto demons and use them to transport yourself around the map, and the new dash function.
It's like the latest DMC is just a lot of grappling hooking around.
I mean, Doom 2016, the message they told you is don't stop moving or you die. And you're chaining together kills, kind of like a Tony Hawk game. When you get into the flow, you really do feel like you're just owning that stage. In this game, they've really opened it up. That's the big thing I saw was the first game allowed plenty of space for you to move around freely and pick different ways to pick apart the enemies. But this one, there's so much verticality to the spaces. Like you said, the meat hook opens that up where you can propel yourself across the arena, let go, and kind of fling yourself even further. You're using you got a wall climb now where you can he's almost like got the moves of like Mario, right? Like he can flip off poles.
The most metal Mario ever.
Right. He can dash, but yeah, it's like Mario for
jump and shoot his legs to float like Luigi a little bit. It's got everything you want.
That's Doom 3, man.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm not a Doom guy, but is the meat hook thing a callback or reference that completely new to Doom?
It's just like a new thing. It's like a grapple. The Super Shotgun's back. Like that's a fan favorite. Like the 2 shotguns that Doom's kind of known for.
Yeah, and he's got like a blade on his arm now.
He does. Yeah, they redesigned the Doom Slayer. He also has a equipment launcher on his back.
They just turned him into the Predator.
Yeah,
right. It's like got
super fast Predator. Yeah,
rockets and flames and all sorts of crazy
stuff. There's a lot of different loadouts for that, which I'm excited to experiment with.
And those weapons you're using aren't just to kill things, but you got to start thinking strategically. Like when you use a flamethrower and hit someone, they drop armor shard. So it's like, okay, I need armor, I need health. So you're going to start using weapons based on your needs as well, as you're just flowing through.
They were pulling from like Doom 2's enemies specifically, like because this is kind of sort of like Doom 2 in some way, like it's Hell on Earth, the entire premise here. They also said destructible demons are big on like battle damage.
The Arachnotron, real quick, you can pick away at the big gun on its back, destroy that, and then he can still attack, but he's weaker, right? His big, huge BFG kind of attack is gone. And then the other big change is it's not just Mars and Hell. You're bringing Hell to Earth, and then they're taking you deeper into the cosmos to places we haven't seen before. Like one planet we saw was Phobos. They had the BFG 10,000 on it, which is just this huge Death Star-like cannon mounted on the surface of that planet.
I will say during that demo, like I did love the original, the reboot of Doom. I did feel like the level design for Hell was a little bit disappointing towards the end, where it was just a lot of stone and fire. They could have gotten a little bit more creative, and I really like sort of like just the living organism approach they took with all the level design we saw in like that big city. When the Doom Slayer was just sort of navigating, it was really gross and gory, but interesting looking. I kind of hope there's more of that there's more interesting level design and art design.
Yeah, well, they even teased in that video, which is an odd detail about like, hey, we really give a crap about the lore of Doom. And they had a quote where they said, we're not making a Doom game anymore, we're building a Doom universe.
That's right.
They could have done better with that. Doomiverse.
Doomiverse, obviously. What do you guys take?
They're not EA.
Does that mean like a name like Eternal means they want it to be a living game, or they're just talking about blowing out the lore?
Blowing out the lore. Everything in the game has a meaning and a purpose. Like, why am I fighting this guy? Where did this gun come from? You're going to find all that stuff out. And it's not just, like, they had that stuff in Doom 2016 off to the side, where you'd go read the codex. Codices? Is that plural for codex? I don't know. Codex. But that is some more into the critical path. So you're going to learn more about what's going on as you play.
She was also named Cassie.
Some of it will still be
she's also
Doom guy also looks like he should give a shit about what the story is, which I love. That scene where he just grabs the cards and drags the guy with the lantern.
Right. Everyone's terrified of him. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. I really like that interview that you did when you were talking with him about the, like, I think you asked them a question like, do players actually care about this or something? And they were like, well, there is like a part of our fan base that like devours the codex. That's just really into it. And I'm really glad that they're like developing for that.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else you learned from talking to those guys that people wouldn't have learned just watching the stream?
Yeah, there's a lot in the preview and interview I posted on the site. Anything else?
They know that the multiplayer sucked ass last
time. Oh, yeah. They're making it internally now.
Yeah, they kept throwing certain affinity under the bus, basically, and going like, look, we realized it wasn't Doom enough.
Yeah, other things. Snapmap is gone. They're looking at mods. They won't say if they're going to be in or not.
Is it just Snapmaps, do you think overall was seen as a failure? Did they have
massive failure. Yeah.
And also Escalation Studios that made that. Todd Howard devoured that and made that another Bethesda Game Studio. So
Bethesda game himself.
Yeah, he did.
So that's the Dallas studio now, right?
It's like a snake. Yeah.
And he said that they're working on Starfield as well, this team down in Dallas.
The last thing is they announced it for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and right out of the gate Switch. So I hope that means
running at a hot 480p.
I hope that means all at the same time.
Yeah,
opposed to like the staggered release on Switch.
Did you play the Switch version of the last one, JD? Or is that
yeah. I thought it was okay when it came out, and then I played the Wolfenstein one, and the Wolfenstein is, it's not like a transformation, but it's markedly better. So I'm kind of hoping that Doom Eternal gets the same thing, where it's like, oh, this is really good, because going back to the Doom release on Switch, there's a huge difference between the console release,
of course,
and the Switch release in terms of like how fast everything feels that I don't like.
Okay,
I don't like that.
One of the interesting things they also said is that in this one, hinting at multiplayer here, is that you can invade other people's games.
Yeah.
Do you like that idea, Birds?
We'll see. I mean, I try to keep an open mind, but immediately I was like, well, that doesn't look like a thing I'm interested in.
Well, right. Well, hopefully you can just turn it off, right?
Yeah.
And so, are you just choose an enemy to play, or are you going in as one of those freaky marauder guys?
Don't know. And you can team up with other people to create a invasion force, basically, to go into games. But they said that might not be the only way you can kind of interact in the game itself. So there might be
integration or something.
There might be co-op, maybe they're hinting at. I don't know.
It's interesting that you have these developers giving players the tools, especially after the Division's whole Dark Zone thing, the tools to be massive assholes in other people's spaces.
Right.
And I'm kind of curious, like the mindset with how do developers sort of curb that maybe for people who don't want that, whether it is just a switch or it's like they justify to themselves and like, well, that's part of this universe, so deal with it.
Right. You know. For sure, which is a good transition over to Fallout 76. Or it seems like the main thing people are worried about is, are there going to be a bunch of assholes running around in the wasteland?
Yes.
24 of them, right?
Yeah. There are so a couple dozen people on a server at a time.
Yeah.
And the big thing that they announced two things at QuakeCon. One was the perk system, the special system, that their attribute system for the Fallout universe is now card-based. Where you are buying or you're leveling up to get a pack of cards. There's no microtransactions whatsoever. The only way you get cards is through leveling up.
Cards just feel gross, but okay, sure.
But there's hundreds of different cards. Each one has like a different kind of skill or boost on it. Like one might be reduce radiation. Another one might be give you like a plus 20%, marksmanship or something like that. But you're putting these in different categories. In special. And special is an acronym for like strength. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Charisma, you got it.
Yeah.
But you're putting these cards in, and what's really kind of genius about it is they've always wanted to add more skills and stuff to DLC for like Skyrim and the other Fallout games, but they always found at that time, like the game was finished and the rules were so tight for what they made.
Yeah.
But with the card system, they can just keep adding packs and new cards into the mix, that are event themed. Or just special one-offs if they want to, just to keep expanding their set based on the DLC they're making too.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. That's one of the big things they announced is how that works. It's a little clunky. It's a little hard to get your brain around, but once you get it, it's like, okay, that's going to be fun because you can respec any one of those categories at any time.
Yeah.
Flipping in new cards. And then the big thing, the awesome thing they announced is how PvP works. And
Crazy.
This is the thing people are scared of. They want a true Fallout experience.
Yeah, in that panel, they were so defensive. There's a lot of, just soft pedaling around it. Like, look, we're thinking about PvP a lot. We know people are worried about being griefed.
And so let's say you are Ben Hansen.
Yes.
You're out in the cranberry bogs, picking raspberries.
Shooting Mothman.
No, you're not strong enough for that, or too cowardly for that.
Correct.
Bert's would be out taking down the Mothman.
Okay.
But you're out there picking berries, and then JB comes up and wants to fight you. And you're like, no, bugger off, I don't want you near me.
Right.
He starts shooting at you. He's actually going to be damaging you, but it's going to be very minimal. So he's just going to be picking away at you. At that point, you could turn around and be like, stop it, and fire a shot back at him.
Yeah.
If that shot connects, you are now in a PvP scenario where you're both doing full damage. Whoever wins gets XP reward, caps reward, all these different rewards for taking down a player based on their level. Let's say you don't want to engage at all.
I turn my back to JB, which is normally what I do.
He just keeps shooting at you.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, I'm just going to keep picking these berries, leave me alone, and he kills you. At that point, he becomes a wanted murderer in the world.
That's so smart.
His icon appears on the map as a red star, everybody can see it. Usually you can't see anybody in the world. Sometimes they show up as little pips when they're doing stuff, but shows up as a red star on the world. He can't see anyone else on the map, but everybody can converge on him because there is a reward for taking him down, and that reward comes from his cap supply.
That's so smart.
So he gets no experience, nothing. The only thing he gets is that fame for that fleeting moment of being this wanted person. But think about this, though. In that moment, if you go to take him down, if you shoot him, and he shoots you, you go into PvP. So there's a chance he could stay alive for a while and be murdering people left and right. Even though the first one was the crime, he could rack up a pretty significant death count as you're going to try to stop this guy.
I love it. And Todd Howard even had a good line where he's we decided to turn the assholes into interesting content.
All right. That's a good approach. It's a great way to deal with griefers. I think it's really going to limit the number of people that do it, but when they go for it, I think they're really going to go for it. I don't think you're just going to have those things like, I'm going to log off in 5 minutes, I'm just going to take someone down. I think this is going to be like, oh God.
People will the class will just be serial killer. And it's I'll be a wanted man, but I don't care. It's going to be worth it because it'll be so much fun. And overall, they talked a lot about playtesting and worrying about, people are just going to camp outside the vault, obviously, because everyone has to exit this one place. And they have workarounds for that. It seems like they're very aware that most Fallout fans are worried about this.
And one thing I could say, this is a tease for our next issue. But I sat down and I talked to Todd Howard, Jeff Gardner, and Chris Mayer over at Bethesda Game Studios for a good 30-40 minutes.
Cool.
About the stuff you don't know about Fallout 76. And we got answers. We know what makes that thing tick now. So if you have any questions about how it works as a solo game, questing, any of that stuff, other things you can do in the open world, we have that stuff in the next issue.
All right, cool. And when's that issue launching?
That is September... First week of September? Yeah.
Okay, summer. That sounds great.
So early September.
Cool. Good time with Todd. Any good Todd anecdotes that aren't in the story?
There's one I'll be launching on the site soon.
Oh, really? Interesting. What a tease. Real quick, too, Rage 2. They showed it off again. They focused on taking down convoys. And it was very odd thinking about this coming from Avalanche because that was also a big component of their Mad Max game.
Yeah.
And then, Cork reminded me of this, it gets even more complicated because it's all right, so Bethesda Game Studios is working with Avalanche, who formerly worked with Warner Brothers on the Mad Max game. Now, just to complete this weird circle, Bethesda is suing Warner Brothers for ripping off Fallout Shelter for their Westworld game. And now Bethesda, in a way, is taking the work that Avalanche worked on as an inspiration for the convoys for Mad Max, for the convoys for the... You know what I'm talking about?
I feel like you could argue against that, though.
Wait, I think they're suing Behavior, not Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Because they worked on both games.
Also, Convoys is just such a part of that, genre.
Right.
It's like someone suing The Last of Us for having zombies.
You're right. We all like Road Warrior. Of course, we want to recreate that as much as we can. What did you actually see or play from Rage 2?
So I played the E3 demo, which they haven't shown online yet in its entirety, and you'll be able to see that on our site and YouTube on the 24th.
Okay.
You'll see my playthrough, and I was very good.
Mm-hmm.
We cut out all the deaths. He's just staring at me. But then they showed 7 minutes of footage of the convoys, which they're interesting. In the Mad Max game that they made, they were very short.
Yeah.
Just kind of little one-offs. You see them randomly kind of going down the paths in the desert. And you'd see they're indicated by the smoke or the dust being kicked up. That's how the random ones work in this game. But then there are more set-piece moments where they kind of play out like mini levels, where you're going to be interacting with those convoys in different ways. They introduced a couple more factions into the game. I can't remember. They have awful names, of course. And then talked more about how the biomes work.
Which, it's interesting. They said that, in our world, the Rage world, Earth is kind of springing back to life. It's not a complete wasteland anymore. So it's interesting that, I know people make too much of this comparison, but it's kind of taking that Borderlands approach. One was all dust and desert and stuff. Now in the second one, we're going to have a diversity of biomes here.
You know what it is? It's totally game designers being oh my God, I'm so sick of this world being brown.
Yeah.
Metro Exodus is doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're totally right. Same thing, yeah.
Is there anything in our lore that will allow us to just have, on the outskirts, a jungle, ice world, and all this stuff? And they're like, yes, there's these things that the
writer
we
will
can send
handle
out.
Yeah, it turns out it's the world of Rage. You can push it a little bit here and there.
So you're going to be in swamps, jungles, all that stuff, and that's great for from the standpoint of gameplay variety. But what I played again was really fun.
Oh, good.
You know, it's not id Tech. You know, it's not as fluid as id stuff, but it is. What's a good word for it? Just as crazed.
Okay.
Like, I mean, they throw enemies at you in more of a chaotic pattern. Like Doom, like I said, you could kind of see the patterns where you're going, how you're taking down enemies. This one, it'll just be guys everywhere, and you got to deal with that. And they're all normal, you know, like punks out in the wasteland. You have these things in your body called nanotrites, where you are kind of a superhero, where you can do like a force push, kill them instantly with that.
Yeah.
Jump up in the air, do 20 feet, do a ground pound, kill a bunch more with the shockwave. So you have an advantage, and then you can also like hit your overdrive, which is just like a Rambo moment where your guy just starts screaming and you're just spraying bullets, and he's just like jamming on the trigger faster than normal.
Okay.
But that deals with him quicker too. So it has a nice ebb and flow to how it goes. Again, it's crazed, but it's a lot of fun.
Did this answer any questions for you? Because JB and Bert, you guys are both wondering about the open world.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an open world. It looks like an accordion or something, because a lot of those areas look really, linear. There's some of those chase scenes.
Yeah, like I have no doubt that the moment gameplay of that game will be super fun. But just, I need to see that open world. That's what I'm really concerned about.
Yeah.
Because I've never been sold too much on, like, Just Cause as, like, it's a fun sort of physics simulator and just blowing stuff up, but the idea of, like, exploring those worlds, they're not interesting to me.
That's fair. I talked to him a little bit afterwards, and I was like, I liked Mad Max. I thought it was fun. Having the one car is interesting. It's kind of your lifeline out there, but I was like, also, it kind of gets a little boring when you just have that one thing, and they're like, you could jack anything in this game. You could be in a monster truck, a gyrocopter, and I was like, all right, that's cool.
You got me. Have they talked about multiplayer at all for Rage 2? Mm-hmm. Have they ruled it out?
I don't know.
I feel like they might have ruled it out when I was there. Okay. I think I asked them. No, they said they have nothing planned for the moment, I think was the language.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay, which I think was their phrasing on Just Cause 3 for a long time as well. Okay, gotcha. Cool, so overall, great trip.
It was an awesome trip, yeah. Bethesda has a pretty decent lineup there. There was also Pete Hines saying that they might not release Elder Scrolls Legends on PS4.
Because of crossplay issues.
Because it doesn't do crossplay with all of the other ones. So I want developers to start banging that drum. Like, come on, Sony.
I wish it was something with a little more oomph than Elder Scrolls Legends.
Yeah.
Like, we're not releasing Elder Scrolls 6 or something.
Fallout 76 doesn't have crossplay, but
I just really like this thing is like gaming's Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
It's really amusing.
How many times do we have to say, Mr. Layden, tear down this wall? It's got to happen. All right, you guys want to clap out of here and get ready for some WoW talk?
You got it.
All right, welcome to the big show. We have Dan Tack.
Hey.
We have Andy McNamara.
Hello.
These people have spent thousands of hours of their lives for this moment right here to talk about World of Warcraft's Battle for Azeroth expansion, right?
If only thousands, if not tens of thousands.
Really?
I don't
all been leading to
I don't want to know how big it is.
Yeah, I don't want to know. People often ask for your /played, and I'm like, I don't want to know.
Well, they took it away.
I don't want to know.
You can't look anymore.
Did they really?
You can't see the account played. You can see the character played.
Oh my god.
I mean, you can go look at all your characters and add it up.
All my characters, they're not all there. Some have been deleted.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, all right. I mean, it's certainly
an astronomical amount.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, you guys, you've had a couple nights to play this, maybe a couple days. So how much time have you put into this thing so far? Where are we at for early impressions, at least?
Yeah, we're certainly in the early impressions stage.
Yeah.
20 to 30 hours? Maybe?
All right. I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's where we're at, because it turned on Monday at 3.
Like from the point where
our 5, our time, Central Time?
Right. Tries to, at least.
It's been basically nonstop play.
Okay.
Basically.
Some rough goes in the beginning. I saw people complaining, maybe just Andy on Twitter, about difficulty getting in.
No, so, first of all, when I got in at the beginning, it seemed fine. What happens is that when there's big hits like this, like the people on the East Coast aren't going to bed at their normal bedtime, right? They're going to stay on late. And then when the West Coast gets in its full swing at like 7 Pacific Standard Time, everyone is on, right? Like anyone who has the possibility to be on a high pop server is on it. So there was a time of maybe around like I started playing at 5, at like 7 or 8 my time, as it started to lead towards prime time, it started to get real laggy.
Okay.
Right. So there was about an hour where I was playing where we were in the game, but we couldn't loot or like if you were going to delete something, you'd be like, I hit delete, and then you'd wait for 2 minutes.
Oh God!
And then it would go away, and then it would just randomly kick you, and then you kind of get back in, and then there was a hard like kick a couple times on the way, but there was one that was really hard at like maybe 9, like right at 7 Pacific Standard Time, that my server and a number of other servers just literally got turned off. They locked them out so no one else could get onto them if they figured out what the prompts were. And they were doing updates, like you get kicked to like service incompatible, go out and have to get the update to be able to continue to play. So, and I say this, by the way, this is out of respect for Blizzard. They have in the past had some of the best MMO launches I have ever seen. Right. Like they have done flawless launches in the past.
They also did Diablo 3's launch.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, like, MMOs are hard and they're complicated, and they've done it well in the past. This one was just meh. Right?
Okay.
They've done better. They've done worse, and I've lived through worse. I had one where for EverQuest where it was literally offline.
If we go back to the old days,
yeah, like there's
good play.
There are worse yardsticks that can be measured against, but like it was fine. And then after they finally kicked, I got kicked off for like an hour and a half, which annoyed me because Dan was leveling. Which I brought it to Dan when I came to the office. Normally in our office, the first person to the max level in World of Warcraft is this guy.
Out of respect, you'll like hold back if you're.
No, I don't want to take it. It's a real competition. You know what I mean? I'm in, and I lost, and I'm
barely.
And so it's
the server being down, I think, was a factor.
Okay,
I did have that time period where it was like couldn't loot, couldn't do anything. I had that same like burp, but it was short, and we hid inside of a dungeon during that time to still level up. Well, they're on different servers.
Oh, weird. Okay, little games. All right, so what you got in, Dan? What do you think of this thing so far?
Oh, good. Well, where to begin? Okay, so the new artifact system, I think I like more than the old one, but it is so early to tell. The fact that you just have this artifact power that you can channel into multiple different items, and you're getting different items that have different abilities on them, and then you can pick from assorted abilities on new items. So instead of linear progression from an artifact, you're going to be still getting loot. So you're still going to be looting up those slots, except you can now tailor abilities in those slots as well. It sounds complicated, but it's not. I can't believe they're tweaking the systems. It's like deep into the game's life. So if I get
they do this all the time. I mean, they want to introduce a new gimmick. I know it sounds kind of mean, but they want to introduce a new gimmick to the way that you interact and level with every expansion. That's just kind of a thing that they do, right? Yeah. In this case, we had the artifact, which was your weapon. That was your main power source in the last one. In this one, they give you a neck. That basically is the neck levels, the armor that fits in the 3 slots, being your head, shoulders, and chest, all have powers that are unlocked based on the level of that neck piece, of that neck artifact. Okay. So one, it drives you to level that thing up. So it's a loop, right? It's the loop they want you to do. Like where the past loop was get artifact power to increase the power of your weapon. In this case, increase the power of your neck so you can unlock powers on those pieces of armor.
Yeah.
I know it sounds complicated.
No, it's all right. I feel like it does sound complicated, but just dial it down. Basically, all it is alternate advancement past 120. So you're continuing to level forever. Can we zoom out a little bit more? So Legion last year, 2 years ago? When was that? 2 years. 2 years ago. You guys were both pretty hot on that overall, right? I think Legion was one of the best expansions the game's ever had. Okay, great. So setting up 1 or 2, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so Battle for Azeroth, is it as big? Like, what's the scope of changes? No, I understand that, but like the scope of changes that you understand at this point, does it feel like a middle of the road? Is it a complete overhaul of everything you know about WoW, or like what's the? So a lot of the templating that happened in Legion, which was really good stuff, carries over to here. You've got these big zones that are essentially one big quest chain. You finish it off, you get some cutscenes, you get some story. You knock those out, except in this time, instead of just doing all the same stuff, Alliance and Horde have different areas, and you go to the Alliance area, sort of like incursion-style missions. Raids, if you will, like you're raiding their island. Well, yeah. It sounds silly. It's to promote war mode, which is a big addition. And that's the thing we did the new gameplay today on a while back? No, we did Island Expeditions, which we haven't talked about. Oh, God. Okay. Got it. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm just trying to make sure we cover everything important. So so as a Horde, we go to Zandalar, the troll, the crazy troll city, Wakanda, okay, more or less. Okay. It is Wakanda. It really is. It really is. Ripping something off. They're not even shy about it. Right? Okay. Well, that's their thing, right? Of course. Like there's a boss I ran into called
Totes, Totes McGoat is like literally out there. I mean, like, and you get a goat bag, a goat tote.
There were a lot of. I saw tons of references.
They do that all the time.
I killed a crocodile boss. I got like the ticking watch from Hook. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Do I have to get into WoW because they have Hook references now?
Pop culture references has been a core of WoW.
We need a poo. There's an area with a bunch of honey, and there is a donkey and a honey bear, and I mean, like, it's
sweet Christopher Robin.
Yeah, they play in.
They really enjoy it. Yeah. So I love the new capital city.
Okay.
The music and atmosphere are pretty cool. The zones were all right because I did basically have to do them all more or less to level up. You don't have to, but you should.
Okay.
You need to get that reputation anyway to do World Quest later on in the game. So I found the questing was interesting. I mean, without getting into spoiler territory, there was mostly fun. Seemed a little bit quicker than Legion with a little bit less payoff for each zone.
So they're leaning into the Horde versus Alliance thing with this expansion, right? That's the overall theme. Is like, hey, we're getting some nostalgia.
But there's also something else definitely going on, and they hint at it extremely strong. They don't even hint at it. They just hit you over with a sledge.
Okay.
I don't want to put spoilers in, but yeah, there's some other forces are in play here as well.
Okay. All right. So it's just easy marketing.
I mean, I think you could say that like they've already pointed out that the old gods are involved in some way, right?
Yeah, I mean, and for Andy's side, I hear on the Alliance side, it's much more in your face immediately.
Okay. Number one, I always find WoW lore to be pretty medium. By the way,
we can say I'd agree with that.
Okay. It's fun because I think one thing that WoW does really well is that they take their lore seriously for the people that really love it, right? But they also make it pretty digestible and easy to like kind of get through, and so it's not overly complicated. There is a backstory that does get complicated, but like you can kind of pass through it. Like I watch all the videos, right? You know what I mean? When the videos come up, I watch them. I don't immediately skip them. I will immediately skip them from now on, right? When I do alts and things like that. But you watch them. You want to see what's going on. But there's so many disconnects. Like this one cracks me up. Like there's literally at the beginning, a major character gets like sentenced to death, kind of thing, right? And then you just walk away, do World Quest. You know what I mean? Like you don't even like really talk about it again for like a long time. You're like, oh yeah, and like people like talk about. I mean, and yes, you're like consolidating the Alliance or the Horde as like you kind of like build for the Battle of Azeroth, right? Which is the underlining war that they're doing. Okay, but I'm with Dan. Like they kept systems. There's a lot of systems that are similar. The Azerite thing, I think I maybe disagree with Dan a little bit in that, like, I think I liked the weapons better. I think I liked the artifacts better. Because I like that this one, in this case, makes it where I can, if I change specs, like the other one, if I had to level up a weapon for tanking, a weapon for damage, and a weapon for healing, which that's a lot, right? And if you and your friends were like, hey, can you just tank that? You're like, I didn't level up my weapon. You're screwed, right? Yeah. That's a lot of work. In this case, with the neck is the piece you never change out. So when I switch to a different spec, I can already have a weapon that's pretty good, like that I picked up, like doing things in the world. So it's easier to switch specs. I don't have to invest much time into doing specs, but I found the weapons were more interesting, right? I felt like the world was more interesting in like Legion was like, you got everything. I always kind of said it was like kind of an Oprah moment. It's like, you get a car, we got like everything we ever wanted as WoW players. And this one's definitely like a step back to be more, I don't want to say generic, but a little more flatline, right? And I say that in that, like, your powers that you get from these artifacts, I don't even notice them. And you know what I mean? I like select stuff, and I'm like,
like we're getting. I mean, I've got a few pieces of gear now that I can't even get the first tier unlocked, right?
Yeah, I have that too. I'm just saying that, like, even when we get to the end and they add things, and hopefully they add like active type of, because like Legos, they were a pain in the butt to collect. When you got a Lego, you're like, I've got this shield now, right? It was like very obvious, and like the powers that they gave you in game were very apparent, right? And they were
huge and significant. And I think that's actually
what the plan is. Right.
Why they're gone, because before it was like you can't join our raid unless you've got 4 Legos or 3 Legos or
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that you're right. It's definitely grounding and making the game more accessible. But I don't know that I'm saying that makes it more interesting, right? If you're saying the high of the last one was like these Legos were really, and even like when you went from character to character, or even from class to class, you would get Legos that were pretty different and pretty interesting.
Legos, just legendary items. These are super crazy.
Like the top end items.
drops. Right?
Oh yeah.
If you got one of these, you were like, whoa, like got it. Like in Diablo.
You would grind for 2.5 weeks to get one.
Yeah. Okay.
And like one spec would have 12, 14.
Yeah.
They have shared pieces, so I mean, like there was a lot of grinding to get those. And this dance is if you didn't have the best Legos, you were totally gimped.
Like you were letting your team down by not having Legos, and since there was an element of random, there's an element of chance.
Huge. Yes.
It was almost you'd have to do multiple raids. You'd have to do everything.
It was disheartening as a player.
Yeah.
Like when you go play with your friends and you were like getting your butt kicked, it wasn't because you were bad. It's because you didn't get lucky.
Yeah, that's
right.
Exactly right.
And luck was fixed over time. Right. Perseverance would always win. But
you had to persevere a lot.
You had to persevere a lot. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, I felt like the highs of those moments were very high, right? Like they were really engaging. I'm not feeling that right now. But there's a lot of things that are in play here. There was a stat squish because basically at the end of the last expansion, we were hitting for like 6 million. Like I could hit something with my sword for 6 million, right?
Nonsense. Okay.
And then so they did a stat switch when they released 8.0 about a month and a half ago. And so, like, at the past, I would have had haste in the thousands, right? And all of a sudden, I had haste in, like, the hundreds, right? Okay. And I hit things instead of for millions, I hit it for, like, a big hit would be like, man, I hit that for, like, 6,000.
Wow, okay.
Right? I mean, it was a huge shift. So, like, the game, to some degree, I think, feels a little, because we were at such a high, and we're pulled back down, like, the game feels slower to me right now.
Interesting.
Like every character I play, like in the past, because I had high haste, because I had all these things, and I had a whole raid set, which raid sets are gone now, right? I had 2 of the top end Legos. Like the game was fast and furious at that point. Like every character I played had a lot of interesting things at play. And because we're going back to this ground zero, and because we don't know where we're going to be a year and a half from now, right? Like it's just totally. I'm trying to be fair. I'm judging what's here.
Yeah.
I know where it's going, but. All the highs are gone, right? Like even on I play with my paladin, so I play primarily, and I've also been playing my shaman some. But like my paladin used to be like you'd hit crusade and it would be like an accelerator. You'd just start hitting buttons as fast as you could to kill things, right? And that was a problem, by the way. I get why balance wise it was a burst of damage they didn't want to have happen. That all my damage happened within that crusade. But now when you hit crusade, yeah. I mean, I hit a little bit harder, maybe like a little bit faster, but it doesn't feel faster.
Yeah. Is that just a paladin issue, Dan, or do you notice that as well?
I'm guessing it's just because we are so
new. We're new.
We're early in the Azurite cycle. We don't have the crazy gear that's going to be like, you need an Azurite level 50 trinket to unlock this crazy blast off crusade effect. Whenever you hit crusade, do a billion haste or something. Look, and that part is like, I agree. Right now, that's what we're looking at. Yeah. Things definitely feel slower on Mage 2. I hit Time Warp and I'm like,
did someone hit it? Yeah,
am I even getting a haste buff?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But that's just because everything is dialed back.
It's reset.
Yeah,
to some degree. I mean, this expansion is a bit of a reset and a refocus
for the sake of the future of WoW.
Yeah, I mean, they have to do this.
Every expansion in its own way is basically a reset since even the very beginning when you'd replace epic loot that took you months to acquire with a green drop from a tree.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing when you're leveling, and you're like, I worked so hard to get this gear, and you're like, this green quest item is I don't want to better. And you just had to put it on, and then put your old gear. Like, I'll even do the thing where I put old gear in the bank, because I'm like, I just want to keep it, because I worked so hard for it. And then I know 3 months from now, I'm just going to go, what idiot put all this in the bank? I got to sit here and delete this for like
Do you have anything from like 14 years ago? Do you have any items that you saved?
I did. And then there was a moment where they wouldn't give us more bag space, which was this is an old school complaint with them, and they were like, very limiting on vault space, and I was like, I gave up, and I finally deleted a bunch of stuff, which I can't get back now, and I don't have all those sets, and like they're hard to get back now to some degree, and I'm a little bit bitter about it.
Oh no!
But I finally gave up, and then I think like 3 months later they were like, we fixed it, and I was like, oh, I hate you so much.
And also, Hanson, one cool thing about that is any gear that you had at any point can now be transmogged on your character, so you can wear old stuff even if you're not wearing it.
So it has a collection system now. It just didn't back then. And I don't get credit in my collection system for the stuff I had way back.
Oh, that sucks.
Like all the vanilla WoW stuff that we collected is basically gone, because I needed to make bank space at one point, and then at Burning Crusade, I think Cataclysm, my stuff has gone. I mean, it wasn't until
They didn't. Yeah, it was a while then.
Yeah, they added transmog. Like when they added transmogging, they also put like a kind of void space you could store things in like that, but that didn't exist until the middle of the overall arc of WoW.
Dan, highlights so far, best moment that you appreciate the most?
Okay, so just really quick dialing down.
Yeah.
I like the zone. The quest zones were, I think they were more or less on Pro Legion. On the Horde side, I like the Nazmir zone. You do 3 main zones, and then you have like sort of offshoots into enemy territory for like other zones. And that's your leveling experience from 110 to 120 more or less. And they've dialed back on the system, the little like mobile game system where you send your followers on a mission. That's very tiny now. You've only got a couple followers and a couple things. That's fine with me. I know a lot of people didn't like that system. It was pretty extensive in Draenor, and then they dialed it back a little bit last expansion. Now it's dialed back even more, I think.
A lot more. It's the things that you get from that are like your Hearthstone goes faster. It's like that's not the sexiest. It's like you're like, I worked so hard to get that boring thing.
We're not getting the super powerful effects that we used to get from that stuff. Okay, but it's still there, and I like the seafaring aspect. Theme is fun. It's fun themed. Like Zandalor's theme is fun. The trolls walking through the jungle, killing big dinosaurs, taking out blood trolls. This was fun stuff. This was good. It was good. It was definitely I didn't have a problem with the leveling experience. The island expedition seemed fun right now.
And that's the weird new PvE.
That's the thing that we took a look at in the gameplay today. And I'm just hitting the point where I can start going on harder ones and the PvP ones, which I really want to get into. In the past few days, I've just been doing the regular ones. And that seems to be the major source of Azurite for you per week, because there's a big meter you fill at the top, and if you hit the top of that, you collect so much Azurite on these islands, you get a giant boost to your.
It's going to be a part of you. I mean, it's very obvious. It's going to be a part of your weekly routine of a character that you care about. You're going to do the island expeditions to level this.
And it seems okay, Andy. You're looking forward to it.
I did some earlier today. I thought they're fun. I mean, I'm with Dan. I think they're fun right now. I want to see where they go.
Right.
I want to see what they're like when they PvP. I mean, that's the thing is, so many things right now are hard to judge. Like even the open world stuff. Like you should have war mode on, which I did when I leveled. And there were times when it was really fun, and there was time when war mode was cool, and then there was times when they sent me from the Alliance side to the Horde side. And we were like, oh, this is cool. We can kind of like expedition and like run into like people every once in a while. And then like one world quest we went to go do, we're like, oh, that one's just right over there. It'll be fine. And we came around the corner, and there was 200 Horde. I mean, it was like awesome. Like it basically brought us to an area that was kind of a highway. Let's say like that's like a hard like quest point that everyone is doing. And we came around the corner, and we were like, run. You know what I mean? And then we got killed, and we got farmed, and like, and so the game's a little out of balance right now as far as like how that settles. So it's hard to judge war mode or judge the islands because we don't know how the PvP stuff goes. I mean, we know how it works. We just don't know how it's going to play out.
Right.
So for me, like, I turned off war mode now. When I go to the Horde Island, I turn war mode off.
Yeah, me too.
Which is, I'm embarrassed to say it now because it's so overpopulated with people leveling. And it's so unbalanced because everyone on the Alliance side is leveling on the Alliance side. All the Horde people are leveling on the Horde side. So when you switch to the other side right now, it's heavily favored to the other side, right?
But that's, again, this could be a time thing because once people are 120, they're going back and forth through the islands freely.
Yeah.
So
that would you would think it might even out over time. It may not because you are you have to take a boat to the other side essentially. You don't just like take a flight path. The flight paths are to this island. It's kind of like the old Kalimdor kind of effect.
You're basically they are two different worlds. You have to. It's a pain. It's not a pain.
Weird. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Is to put some distance back in this world?
It is, but like at the same time too, I would point to that like now because I only have 3 zones to because there's only the Horde or there's only the Alliance way to level. It kind of removes the ability, like when you play an alt, to make that more varied.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? You're stuck doing that kind of one path. I mean, now you could start with different of the 3, like do 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. You know, some variation on that order.
All 3 are 2.5.
Yeah, at that time to level. So in the past, you could have done, I would do this one, and I'll skip that one, or whatever, because it was a world that like everybody did those. And I actually thought the quests were maybe better done. And the world was better done because it was done for everybody rather than 2 halves. And that's a tough, by the way, it's very close. Okay. I'm just saying, like, if I were to give a nudge, I would give the nudge to Legion's, like, area, the Broken Isles, then I would these 2 islands, right?
Yeah.
But these new islands have a ton of new stuff, and there's some great graphics, there's a bunch of new mobs. They did a lot of things. Like the art team did a lot of stuff to make these places more varied, a little more rich than they have been in the past. Even though you go to like an area that's like open fields, they look better. Like the houses look better. They've done a better job. Like right now, the armor's pretty meh.
Yeah. Actually, I thought the Alliance had way better stuff, so I'm trying to farm their dungeons right now to get transmogs.
Yeah, I believe that. I think I got one of the transmogs I got for one of the boots I got from the Horde side was essentially flip flops.
Yeah, we wear garbage.
I was like, wow, I have flip flops on. I am transmogging this right now before anyone sees me running around in Azeroth with flip flops on.
This is one thing I do want to. Yeah, let's go into this right now because we're
flip flops
here. Not flip flops, but we're talking about dungeons briefly. So I like the music and the characters and all that stuff in my Horde zones were cool.
Yeah,
I like them. So dungeon though, man, I got to tell you, I am not loving the dungeons in regular mode. Okay, because I haven't gotten the heroic and mythic yet. That's where everything changes. But while they were leveling, they didn't seem that interesting to me.
Visually,
on the Horde side, visually, enemy types, boss encounters, not a high note for me currently. Again, this all changes when you start doing them higher difficulties. The enemies usually get more abilities and have different mechanics. But
the thing is too, like when you do it on normal mode, or even heroic, or when you get to mythic and mythic plus, there'll be a power that they do that you just flat out ignore because it doesn't do anything.
Right.
And then as soon as it's doing like 400x damage, right, that little thing that in the past you ignored, all of a sudden you have to start paying attention to.
Yeah.
So the level of thought and engagement in a dungeon, it starts to multiply very quickly as you get to harder and harder dungeons where you really have to concentrate. And that's kind of where we were at the end of the last. I mean, that's the thing is you're always looking at a curve that's going up, and we're at the bottom of that curve trying to judge where the curve is going to go. Right. Okay. But I did see there were some interesting powers. I thought there were some interesting bosses that I thought could get interesting.
I think your dungeons, because I've started doing them now that I'm on 20, so I have access to Andy's dungeons, were cooler than mine going through. Because like a couple of mine were just like the goblin one, the mother load.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you've done that one yet. It is just.
That's what I was going to be doing now instead of this podcast.
I would be there too. It's just like a long corridor of shredders and goblins, and
I think the manor's the one, or the manor on Alliance side was. I was like, this is Blackrock Hold. I don't want another series of closed corridors filled with like wave or group after group after group of mobs. And the other thing too is with the changes that they made, because they change all your talents, right? So the way that you work as a tank, the way you work as a healer, at their core they're the same, but they try to change some of the elements as they tune it to the way they want the game to be played. And so at the end of the last game, there were people who were tanks who could pull like the entire dungeons, and I mean like on super hard modes. That's the fun thing about the MDI, the Mythic Dungeon Invitationals. You'd watch the people who are amazing at the game pull these insane groups. I mean, you'd be like, I wouldn't pull 2 of these groups, and they're pulling 7 of them all at once, and then they're going to kill them, and you would watch insane things happen. Yes. And so Blizzard was like, we don't want tanks to be able to hold aggro on 1,000 mobs.
Like you just go, it would be one pull from the start, and this was normal. Start of the dungeon, boss
to the first
here,
boss.
You just drag everything.
Yeah. Oh god. And you had those powers, like you had those things that would engage that many people, and so they changed it so even like an AOE power that in the past would have been like, I'm going to AOE this, and would have hit every single thing in its path.
Yeah.
Now they're like, it's going to hit 3.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Hey, your AOE taunt, it's going to hit 3. Right. You know what I mean? Like, so they're really trying to they want to focus it in so that they can design. Ultimately, I think the goal is they want to be able to design a more tailored experience that they control the difficulty and how powers and people work.
And you think the community wants that, or they just want to keep breaking stuff?
That's a community point. That's
they're always going to find a new way to break it, right? It's going to be
it's challenging because here's the thing: they brought back buffs, which in the last 2 months that I've been doing raids, I hate that they brought buffs back. They're like, we're bringing back individuality. I'm like, I don't want individuality in that level because basically what it is like if you do a raid and you don't have a warrior, you don't get a 5% attack bonus
because it's not really individuality. Now it's you have to bring one of these.
You're just essentially a requirement, right? So it's now a requirement. So it's not just like, hey, I'm going to play with 20 of my friends that I know. I'm going to play with 20 of my friends that I know, and we have to have these
one of them has to be a mage, one of them has to be a warrior,
a priest, one of them has to be. You have to have these specific classes, which is these requirements. There used to be a phrase people make fun of that was like, "Bring the player, not the class." It's been mocked endlessly, by the way, that they said this at one point. But you are now back to requiring these things to be in the dungeons, right, and to be a part of what you're doing, and so that is on itself they have to balance that, right, and now they have to balance for PvE. and they have to balance for PvP,
which
right?
is crazy.
And now they have to do all these kind of balancing passes to make sure that they're understanding these kind of limited powers within these mythic dungeons, because they want the mythic dungeons to be interesting and to be like kind of an esport to some degree as well.
Okay.
So another thing they need to balance. And then on top of that, in the past, they even like for world PvP, which is kind of a goal of this thing with war mode, there were a time where they were like, look, man, we're just not balancing world PvP. I mean, they literally said, we're not balancing.
World PvP was thrown under the bus, rightfully so, I think. There was no way to handle it. Right?
Yeah, they were like, we're not doing it. We're just not going to balance it. So anyone that's like out of whack, or anyone that figures out a weird, balance, thing like, well, hey, if I wear this shoulders and like I can go blow people up as a tank, which is what was happening while people were playing tanks, just destroying people. They were like, that's world, we're not going to control that. But now it's a major portion of this game. So the list of things that they need to manage is increased, right? And that's part of the reason why maybe the neck and like the powers that you're getting from the Azerite armors are maybe a little more predictable.
Right.
Right. Predictable, in which I used the word generic earlier, which I'm going to reuse now a little bit because that's my feeling a little bit. They have flattened it to make it easier to balance across this wide area of balance that they want to do. But as a seasoned WoW player, and I think Dan will agree with me on that, is that when they open up to more, I get concerned.
It's a lot to undertake, and I do want to see how it shakes out. I still disagree with you about the gear, though. I think it's going to end up being more interesting than the artifact in the end.
I hope so, but I mean, you get a gear,
because now I get excited about drops again. Like something drops like, oh, so this one has an unlock at 7, 15, and 25, and they're all different. It's like I'm still excited about gear drops. So like, okay, this slot is done. This slot is done forever.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The slot being done forever was lame when you got like the one Lego.
Right.
But I kind of feel like they could have been more interesting in like balancing the meta and challenging like what Legos you used and use them as like powers to make it more interesting. Because ultimately,
see, that's Legos are like a double-edged sword for me. Because like, yes, it feels amazing to get one, right? And you're super powerful, and they have crazily cool effects. But at the same time, you get that, you're like, all right, I'm done with that.
You're done with that.
That's never changing. I'll see you in 2 years.
But I think that comes down to balance. And I also think that comes down to like what the raids have to offer. And I think without raid gear now, that's an interesting challenge as we look to that and where that goes.
It's interesting because there's not raid sets, but there are still sets in the game.
There's still sets in the game that you collect for transmog purposes. But I'm saying that like
set effects.
Set effects to that from the Azerite pieces that you get from those dungeons. Yes, right.
I actually saw a real set while I was leveling. It was weird.
A real set that you were leveling?
Like a set. Like set bonuses.
Oh, from like individual dungeons. No, from dungeons kind of thing.
It was outside in the overworld. Some kind of, I killed a bird. I killed a vulture, and like it drops like something together of a bird set, which gives movement speed for having X pieces.
So it gives a worthless bonus.
Yeah. Okay, but it still exists.
Okay, all right, they still exist. Worthless bonus, but it's there.
Because the evidence, maybe there are going to be dungeon sets.
Yeah, I mean, there could be. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do, and they'll get player feedback, and they'll change. I mean, that's the thing. It's a live game, right? They can change a lot of things. That's why it's like anything we complain about now could sound stupid a week from now.
I mean, because we are just about to hit that real content.
This is where
we're about to start fighting in real dungeons, doing real encounters instead of like. That's probably one of the reasons why I am so down on the standard dungeon experience while I was loving, because there was really nothing. Like I just like the boss does the thing, you're like, yeah.
Okay, but you've been doing normals. Normals are typically pretty easy.
I'm well aware.
I was tanking them some just to get fast queues, and I felt like they were okay to tank. Like they were interesting, at least a little bit.
Yours were cooler looking, I think, because now I've done all of the Alliance side ones too, and I think they're cooler. That one with the pirate one that you guys have.
You have to chase a greased pig.
I love that.
You love that part? Oh my god! I thought, dude, in Mythic Plus, I'm gonna be so mad when we get to that thing and we're on a timer and someone has to catch a greased pig. I'm gonna be furious.
Just running around.
Okay, it's like a joke.
It's like a gag. You get to this arena, they're like, "All right, well, your mission is you gotta catch this greased pig." And they're like, "I like
that. You want that bird set then?"
I am a big fan. I'm a big fan, typically, of Blizzard's like.
Silliness.
For lack of dumb opera house encounters.
Oh, okay. Opera house encounters.
Where they have like different guys that can come in based on and they're like, they call them out like, hey, today you're going to be fighting this guy. It'll be different than the other guy you used to fight.
Okay. It changes at the dungeon, so it's different.
It's a theatrical thing. Okay. Gotcha. So overall, Dan, review is coming soon, right?
It's coming. Yes, it's coming.
Do you have any idea when?
Obviously, it takes a long time to be able to do that with any kind of accuracy, especially since we're not going to have war fronts or raids for some time now.
September 4th, I think, is raids go live.
So is the review waiting for that stuff to come in?
I'm not sure. The review will be soon.
Okay, we could do some kind of review in progress. I think until the raids happen.
And Andy's second opinion review will also be going live.
I mean, we're going to talk about this. Believe me, this discussion is barely beginning.
I'm trying to not talk to Dan. I was actually a little worried about coming here and talking about the podcast. I didn't want to I've got feelings on it certainly.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I think the game is interesting. I love WoW. I'm gonna play it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna level up a number of characters and see the world. And I'm excited. This weekend I want to do the Horde side. So I mean, there's a lot of things I want to see it do in the game, and I'm excited to get to the raids. I just hope that's my hope is that they do make the Azerite armor interesting because right now it's not that interesting.
Sure. To be fair, I agree with
the dungeons. To your point, I don't think the dungeons are that interesting either. I hope the dungeons get interesting. I hope the raids are interesting. I hope the war mode is good. There's a lot hanging on hope, and there's a lot hanging on. Because even like our characters right now,
I'm sure I wasn't blown. I'm trying to think back. I'm sure I wasn't blown away the last two expansions doing leveling dungeons either.
I don't know. I had fun in Legion. I had a lot of fun in Legion. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, wait a minute, that was good.
Legion was a lot of. Legion was. I think it wasn't. That was the hardest thing they had to face. I think the biggest boss they had to face in this game was how good their last.
I almost agree because a lot of the stuff that we have now, we kind of are spoiled by because we're just used to it now from Legion.
Yeah, they took a lot of things that were standard in that and are now standard in that. They did not create new loops in some areas.
Okay.
So what we have is essentially, the end game loop right now, as 2 days in, looks a lot like Legion's. You've got your world quests, you got your dungeon options, and island expeditions now, which are really growing on me because they're like 3-person. You don't have to have a tank, you don't have to have a healer. You just get in there and kick around, and have fun. Super 10, 15-minute experience. And I'm interested today because I'm finally the right eye level to get into actually PvP in there against a real team of actual people. Have you tried that yet?
Nope. That was today's. I have an agenda.
What am I doing here?
I know exactly.
What am I doing
Islands, and then heroics tonight.
I love you guys, but I'll let you go home and play more WoW in your own peace. You can come back and talk about it at some other point.
If anybody made it through the podcast through this much of me and Dan talking about WoW,
and we were dialed in too. So
I'm glad you guys got nerdy. That's the point of having you two here together. But for right now, you guys want to clap out?
Oh yeah, it's good by the way.
Phantom Doctrine, everybody. Ben Reeves.
Hello.
Jeff Margifava.
Hey.
I've been meaning to ask you guys, what do you think about World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth?
Oh my gosh, so exciting.
Where do you start?
Boring. Another one.
Okay, this is a game that Reeves had dragged you down to learn about. You're going to sit back and just soak in some info. Because, Jeff,
I can get used to this.
You have put a lot of time into Phantom Doctrine.
I sure did.
Which is 80s spy-themed XCOM.
Yeah.
From the creators of Hard West, which is an XCOM-like game that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that probably haven't heard of.
But people like it.
Play that one? I don't remember that. I didn't play that one.
Okay, the Creative Forge Games, a Polish development house over here.
Yep.
What do you think about Phantom Doctrine?
I liked it a lot, but with some kind of major caveats to it.
What does it get right?
The kind of stealth aspect of going through levels.
It's like XCOM is what it means. That's what it is. But the stealth thing is just a little more like XCOM 2 then, I guess, where you don't want to trigger everything to kick off the encounters.
It is kind of the opposite of of the experience that I always got and liked from XCOM. I kind of went into this thinking, okay, turn-based combat, lining up shots and all that kind of nonsense.
Overwatch, I get it.
Yeah, and you don't want to be doing that in this game. If you get into open combat, you have probably done something wrong.
Because spies aren't into open combat.
Yeah, they go around, they sneak around, and knock people out from behind.
Yeah.
So you can take somebody out in one hit usually. Yeah. The only thing is that your health bar, your health points or whatever has to be higher than the other person, and so that kind of creates this race of constantly upgrading your agents and recruiting new agents that have higher, hit points and stuff like that.
Okay.
But otherwise, every character has the ability, if you sneak up and are right next to someone, you can knock them out.
That's cool. It's got a cool overall vibe too. A lot of haze, a lot of saxophone.
Yeah,
it's got a cool feel to it.
Yeah,
but it's 1980s. What's the 85? 4, 3, 2.
It's kind of it's Cold War kind of vibe to it.
Okay, and how's the overall story?
you're going up against a shadow organization that's kind of responsible for every conspiracy theory you could think of. So it's not super serious. They kind of do things with hidden, moles in your organization and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting, but you're probably not going to be playing this for, the surprise plot twists.
Right, okay. But overall, I mean, you'd recommend it? Better than Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle?
No, probably not. I think Mario and Rabbids would appeal to a lot more people. For this one, you have to A, be into XCOM, and B, be open to something that's more complicated and slower than XCOM as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There are a lot of different gameplay systems in Phantom Doctrine, and they aren't explained well, and so you kind of have to figure them out on your own. I really envy people who are going to play this post-launch, where I'm sure there are going to be a million, Wikipedia sites and stuff like that kind of break down how all these things work and answer your questions.
Right.
But otherwise, you're kind of going through trial and error and trying to figure these things out. And when you're trying to, come up with a long-term plan for how you're going to manage your base and what upgrades you should buy and stuff.
Right.
Like not knowing, being kind of fuzzy on the specifics for that kind of stuff is frustrating in the beginning.
Right. The management seems very systems heavy to the point that when we recorded the New Gameplay Today video, Leo Vader was watching it, and it was basically the Vince McMahon gif of him watching the muscular guys come out. He's like, whoa, whoa, and then falling out of his chair because he's so into it.
Yeah, and all that stuff was really cool to me once I figured out how it was all working.
Okay.
And, taking over enemy agents and converting them and all that.
Torturing them?
Well, interrogating, Hanson. You don't just torture for no reason.
I understand.
Well, there you go. I love that XCOM is a genre of game now.
It's the new Rogue.
Yeah, it's like turn-based strategy games have been around for a long time, but for some reason XCOM just nailed this specific version of it that's perfect.
And I like that people are finding their own spin-offs and kind of doing unique things in that area.
I think GameSpot's Mike Mahardy was tweeting about this recently, but despite Kingdom Battle existing and being super solid, wouldn't it be nice to have Enemy Unknown on Switch?
Oh yeah.
It's on a phone, it's 100%. On everything. Is it on Vita? There's another one that they were talking about. I don't know if they did it, but
just put it on the new Vita.
The Switch.
Yeah.
God, wouldn't it be great? God, I want it. Anyways, review on the site soon?
Soon, yeah.
Do you have a review score locked down yet?
Not yet.
Okay, Phantom Doctrine is the name of this game. Forgettable name, perhaps, but worth a look.
Yeah.
Okay, we did a New Game for the Day video if you want to check it out. For now, not you guys necessarily, but with the concept of the podcast, want to move on to emails?
Sure.
Here we go. And welcome back to Game Informer Show. We have, let's see, a whole new crew for emails because we're wild here in the Game Informer office. You can never predict who's going to come on by. So we have Kyle Hilliard. Hi. We have Serial Vasquez.
I was supposed to say a mean joke and I forgot it.
On this podcast, this is a family
How dare you?
podcast. There's no room for mean
It
jokes.
was a good thing I forgot it then. Yeah.
Perfect. Brian Shea. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. We have some emails that people wrote into podcast@GameInformer.com. People have thoughts, questions, words of wisdom, dares, little games for us to play. Anything that makes the show better, people send it to podcast@GameInformer.com.
No mean jokes.
No mean jokes. They're going to choose our absolute favorite of this batch and make that person question of the week and put their country or state of origin up on our big board and make them an official friend of the show from God's country. Much like Nicholas Brewer here of Searcy, Arkansas, not Arizona. He says, hey, Ben and crew, can't say I'm particularly surprised that nobody knew anything about Arkansas. Even people who live here don't know that much about it. So I figured this would be a good time to let you guys know a few facts about Arkansas.
I know a couple.
Go.
Bill Clinton.
He didn't mention
That is a fact.
He's from there, right?
People from Arkansas are called
Arkansans.
That's funny. That's confusing for everybody.
Very weird.
You know who's born there?
Bill Clinton.
Johnny Cash.
Hey.
Bill Clinton of
the
music.
Taco Bell commercial?
Yep, you got it. Sam Walton opened the first ever Walmart in Arkansas.
That's right.
The barbershop that gave Elvis Presley his signature hairstyle is now a museum in Arkansas. Can you imagine that when you're that desperate for a museum? It's like, we cut that dude's hair once. I hope they still have his hair or something gross like that. Would you guys save that if you were cutting Elvis's hair? Would you? Yeah.
Depends on when. It sounds like it was before Elvis was like the biggest guy in the world.
I don't know.
If they were the ones who gave him his signature haircut, like that had to have been before.
Did you in Arkansas? Because you kind of have an Elvis haircut. Now that I think about it,
I got this in Austin.
Okay. The World Championship duck calling contest is held each year in Arkansas.
I think that's what I use my vacation time on.
And I think it sounds a little something like this.
Quack, 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 quack. They win.
Diamonds are presumed to have been found for the very first time in Arkansas in 1906. And this blew my mind from Nicholas Brewer here. Right? I thought, diamonds, 1906. It's like, surely they came around before then. It's like, yeah, they've been mined for like thousands of years out of India and stuff.
In the United States.
It must be.
Okay. I'm finding diamonds in games that are set long before 1906.
Yeah. Yes.
All the time.
Right, exactly. By the time you find a diamond for your girlfriend's finger, Ryan Shea.
Hey.
Anyways, Taylor Witt also writes in from Nashville, Tennessee. Taylor Witt wrote in. He says, "Hey, Jack Crow, just read David Milner, who's Game Informer Australia's editor, occasionally posts on our site.
They should write an email, actually, so we can get on the board of that.
Yeah, David Milner has never written into the podcast.
If only he would have sent that feature in email form.
Yeah, you're the podcast. Yeah, David Milner, that's how we should submit every Game Informer Australia feature. I would love it. If you are listening to this, tweet at David Milner from Game Informer Australia to write into podcastgameinformer.com. Anyways, he says, I just read David Milner's piece, quote, a look inside how Blizzard maintains World of Warcraft lore, and it was fantastic. I was fascinated to learn about the work that goes into maintaining the continuity and integrity of a video game's lore. It's one of those things that you never really think about when playing a game, but it truly does make it all the more immersive and impactful. Like, Blizzard has a team of historians to maintain the lore and continuity of Warcraft. Historians! How cool is that? Is there a particular lore that you enjoy and love from a game other than World of Warcraft? Yes.
Yes.
I'd argue it's very easy to come up with lore that I love more than World of Warcraft. What do you got?
I like Mass Effect.
You can only choose one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Favorite lore is Mass Effect?
Yeah, we'll go Mass Effect.
Okay. When did you know that you were into that? Like, what's your favorite subplot or detail?
I just like learning about all of, like, the different species, like the different alien races from around the galaxy. Like,
okay.
You know, learning, like, oh, well, the Krogans were in this war. Not that that's, like, some deep cut or anything, but it's also been, 8 years since I've looked into the lore of Mass Effect.
I think it was Mass Effect 1. I think, like, the Genophage story in particular.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
It's a cool thing to look into.
Yeah, you know what? Space eugenics are a fascinating concept. I feel like we're really learning a lot here, everybody. Favorite lore? What do you guys have?
I love Zelda lore. I knew that was coming. I mean, like, playing Breath of the Wild and just seeing those subtle references to past games, and just the idea that they're all kind of, like, take place thousands of years apart from one another. Like, and yeah, I totally agree that Nintendo has, like, interjected that stuff after the fact. That there's no way they started Zelda with this grand idea of this, like, looping story, but the way they integrate it today, I really enjoyed it, and I inhale it, really appreciate it. Yeah. I'm with you there, like, not to the extent that, like, there is as much lore there as there is for Mass Effect, but
there's
very little into that stuff and finding Easter eggs.
And I think it is that kind of simple sort of Nintendo approach to it, where it's like just a little bit, just enough to be.
There's enough mystery there to where you want to see where like subsequent games take place in that time.
Piecing it all together in your head.
Yes.
I still haven't watched the video, but I like that you guys did it, kind of winged it just one day. But you and Wade Wojcik, pre-Leo we call him, you guys recorded a video where you guys just like broke down the lore of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Was that fun?
I loved it.
It was very interesting.
It's like a 20-30 minute video or something. I actually went back and rewatched it recently because Nintendo put Breath of the Wild on a place on the Zelda timeline.
Oh, yeah, they didn't really. Well, they said it's at the end, but they wouldn't say which timeline it was at the end of.
Yeah.
Really?
Which is a little bit of, kind of what Wade and I were sort of guessing at a little bit. So
what is right before it then in either timeline?
Wind Waker,
the original Zelda,
Four Swords.
Oh yeah, the original Zelda.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so this would be after Wind Waker potentially?
Yeah, like way after Wind Waker. Yeah.
So like the seas
receded.
They get sucked off into space or something?
They sucked them off. I don't know, man. The sun ate it up.
That's how the evaporation works. All the rain. This lore sounds pretty cool.
I like Dota's lore just because it's really dumb and like cobbled together. Because basically the origins of all those characters is they're all from Warcraft, or we put that one character from Final Fantasy X into this, and it's like
wait, which character from Final Fantasy X?
Phantom Lancer. He's like this blue guy that makes copies of himself. The cat guy from Final Fantasy X.
Look, I am
a diehard Final Fantasy X guy.
The cat-looking person.
Okay.
That's in your party. Kamari.
No,
Kamari, yeah.
Oh, Kamari. Okay.
And then
You're overthinking it,
there's a
Jay.
character.
I was like, what?
There was a Hydralisk model that they turned into a Venomancer. So it's like, but then Valve had to sort of co-opt all of that into its own lore. So like basically the idea is that two shards of like the Mad Moon are basically fighting for control of like a planet. And sort of they're luring, they use their powers to lure different heroes onto their side, and they basically clash.
Where do you learn this lore?
You just go online.
Wait, is it in the game?
Well, they've released some comics over the years, and sort of you in some of the character descriptions and stuff. There's not a lot of it, but I like the idea of like Valve having to think about, okay, all these characters are. This is basically Ready Player One at some point.
Yeah.
How do we actually turn this into like an actual story that people at least care about enough to like these characters?
They have a concern as clients,
right?
And that question.
Yeah, and certain characters have relationships that like they have voice lines and things like that.
It's kind of like the fact that in Dead or Alive 4, there actually is a story for why a Spartan warrior is an unlockable fighter.
Right. You know what it is?
It involves alternate dimensions.
Yeah, I mean,
Brilliant!
I mean, that's how they put Akuma in the Street Fighter. Tekken 7. So.
Aren't GLaDOS and Wheatley like in canon in Dota? Like you can.
There's an announcer pack.
But is that like? Is there a conceit for why they exist?
No,
the lore of the announcer packs would be a nightmare to try.
Yeah, God.
So yeah.
But real quick, Portal 2 lore, another one.
That was one of my alternates.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Along with Overwatch.
There we go. Overwatch. Mine could be guessed by this next question here, which I'm going to force us to answer. Here we go. Hey, Game Informer crew. Meme jokes here. This is Rexamillion from Baltimore, Maryland here. Did any of you catch the recent interview with Kong Skull Island director Jordan Vogt Roberts on Collider's YouTube channel where he talked about his Metal Gear movie vision? If not, what are you waiting for? It was awesome. He showed some amazing concept art and talked about his plans talked about his vision that he plans on pitching to Sony. Here's a link to the interview. I did watch that interview. Did anybody else watch it?
No, because I don't really want to hear his plans. I want to see when it's locked in and when it's But anyway, continue.
He's still being very vague about everything, obviously. But I'm fascinated by his campaign of doing all of these interviews, just again and again and again. And everybody, look, we have fallen for this Metal Gear movie thing 1,000 times. Hollywood is the worst place on earth. It is the least surefire bet. Everything's rickety. Everything's going to fall apart 6 times before it even has the potential to being greenlit. Like, don't think that this Metal Gear Solid movie is going to happen. I would put it personally, but a 20% chance.
That was the number I was going to say.
Really, 20%?
Yeah, I was going to say 20, 25, something like that.
Because they're at a point now, which is nice that, like, in this Collider video, like, he does emphasize where they're at. And where they're at is first draft of the script, and then they're pitching it to Sony. So this is, like, pre-stage 0 of the Metal Gear Solid movie. Everyone just thinks that it's happening because he won't stop doing interviews about it because he's excited about it. And imagine, strategically, he's just trying to build up buzz to show then some sort of data points to Sony about, like, look at the Google Trends for Metal Gear Solid movie. People are jonesing for it. I keep doing interviews somehow.
How weird would it be if Sony ended up making a Metal Gear Solid game after Kojima left Konami to go to Sony?
Wait. Oh, if Sony made the movie, you mean? Okay. That is interesting. And I wonder, like, because Vogt Roberts seems to be working with Kojima, or at least spitballing with them, they're certainly on Twitter all the time together, living in that Twitterverse. But, like, I wonder if Konami isn't even involved at all. Like, they sold the rights probably a long time ago, or worked out the deal with Sony, and now he just has to get it approved through Sony, and then it's out the door?
That's possible. I mean, licensing is such a mess.
Like, it's confusing. But, like, he says in that interview that he's like, hey, I'm fighting for it. I'm going to keep fighting for it all my life. So it's still being fought for. Very early stages of being fought for. A couple things going well for it. Kong Skull Island, I think, did pretty well in the box office. The first draft of the screenplay was written by Derek Connolly, who wrote the Jurassic World films, which, say what you will about the writing of those films, I have a lot of thoughts. But, like, they have made $1 gazillion, so not the worst talent to be attached for writing your screenplay. And the other things, it's like, I like his concept of where he says that, you know, everyone worries about Metal Gear being too insane and too wacky. He's like, we have to lean into it. And, and so it seems like he's hinting that it's going to be a parallel story between Big Boss, kind of 3 story and 1 story, and kind of jumping back and forth in the timeline to show, like, the cycle of pain for these soldiers and all that stuff, which is, all right, that feels Metal Gear. He could do it.
Do they get Kiefer to be Snake?
No, not him. Not Robert.
No.
to be clear, like I want to see his Metal Gear movie. Like I really want that movie to exist, but until it's like locked in, I'm hesitant to really kind of hear his pitch. You know, but I really want to see that movie be made, and I want to see him make it.
Man, I feel like I'm on the other side of that because like I could easily go my entire life without seeing that movie just because like
if it came out, you wouldn't see it.
I would see it, but like I'm not like, oh man, I really hope they make that Metal Gear movie just because like I think I'm really over the idea of like video game movies being in any way like good. Just because, like, I have very little hope that it would be like, wow, this is the exact Metal Gear movie I wanted. Like, I would be curious to see it, but it's like I don't need a movie to be made to justify like, now my favorite franchise has finally made it to the big time. Like that, I feel like that was sort of the case a long time ago when like stuff like the BioShock movie was first announced, and
Gore Verbinski.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from people want to see their favorite franchises represented on a medium that they feel is bigger.
Why do you think that? What do they get out of it?
Well, like, because every time when I was in middle school, like, you'd hear, like, oh, they're making this kind of movie, and everyone would get really excited, like, in a way that made it feel like, if this movie is made and it's finally big, then that means video games are, like, super mainstream and accepted.
Or even just, like, it validates your hobby, I think, on a more personal level, you know, where Reeves has loved Spider-Man all his life,
right?
And then, hey, the Spider-Man movies do really well, now everybody loves Spider-Man, and it kind of feels like, I made the right choice earlier in my life by being so invested in this, you know?
I like seeing stories that I know play out in other mediums as well. So, like, this is why I like comic book movies so much. Like, I love Infinity War because it's cool to see those things that I've like experienced in other ways play out on the big screen. You know,
right?
Or like if they released like an Avengers game and like it followed one of the stories of like the movie, like I would love playing that same story.
The Lego game's been out for years,
but you know, like a real Avengers game.
How dare you? Traveler's Tales listens to this podcast. Yeah, that's very fair. The other thing that I like about his pitch, which Kyle doesn't want to hear, but I'll tell him, is that he talks about like 3 is a big inspiration, 1's a big inspiration, and then I like that he says Metal Gear 1, like the MSX game, is also a big inspiration. So it's like, is it going to be structured in a weird way where then it'll jump back in time for the climax for like the big confrontation between Big Boss and Solid? Like, I guess
that would make sense. Psycho Mantis confrontation. It's 2, right?
What?
There would have to be some weird fourth wall breaking thing, like, right? There has to be like at least one scene that's just like the projector, the green screen shows up in the background or something.
Isn't that wacky?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I know.
He plays with the idea of what it means to watch a movie, because that's why Metal Gear like plays with the idea of what it means to interact with the game,
right?
And how do you do that in a movie?
I think how you do it is by making the movie interactive. They always complain about long cutscenes. How Kojima should just make a movie. Now with the movie, they'll complain that it's too much of a game. So everyone will take out their phones and vote in the middle of every screening.
Theaters love that.
Right. Oh, it's like the torture sequence. You have to like tap on your phone.
Everyone has to press the same button that's on their seat.
Or else Otacon dies or whatever it is.
You get the bad ending of the movie and you have to go pay another $10 to watch it again.
You have to go hang out with Otacon instead of Meryl.
What a nightmare. My name's David. Okay.
Both played by the same actor.
Josh Carmel from Long Island, New York, says, do you think Konami has any future plans for Castlevania in the next few years? Would you guys be into an Ultimate Collection, trilogy remake, new entry? What style would you guys be most excited for? Should Castlevania and Dracula finally be laid to rest for eternity? Hot take, Dark Souls is the best 3D Castlevania game. Boo.
Sure, it's a shout out. So I thought about this a little bit.
Okay.
First of all, I want a Legacy Collection-esque Castlevania collection.
Okay, up through what? Would that include like GTA
I want
stuff?
Symphony of the Night. That's the cutoff for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want
all
that.
The Game Boy Advance
everything
games,
up to Symphony of the Night?
Everything, well, including Symphony of the Night and prior.
Symphony of the Night's the starting line, and then everything after that, right?
Yeah. Or, no, everything before that.
I feel like I think
he wants
everything after
Castlevania Collection 1 to be everything. The first game's up to Symphony of the Night.
I think that's not realistic. I think like thematically you'd go 1 through 4, maybe some freaky ones, Rondo Blood or whatever. And then, like, Legacy Collection 2
is Symphony of the Night.
Would be Symphony and GBA.
Okay,
and,
that
like,
makes
the
sense.
more
DS games.
Yeah.
Or I would like remakes of those older games, like, even if it's just like Symphony of the Night art style, controls, and stuff like that. Like, those games, I played so much, especially the first one growing up. I would love to experience them again like that.
Well, there's that iOS game still coming, right? That everyone forgot about. Remember they announced that Castlevania co-op thing?
We're good.
No one cares.
So, I would also like another 3D Castlevania, like Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, spend more money on that. They won't do that, but I could see him doing.
But like with the anime being successful on Netflix, and you know, Simon and Richter coming to Smash, there seems like there's a rising awareness.
There
of
is
the
something
brand.
there, yeah.
I think the Castlevania, the Netflix show, would be the sort of art direction for the game, for like another 2D.
Yeah.
You know,
Just get Way Forward to make it real quick.
yeah. I mean, that's because they were really started leaning in that direction after Dawn of Sorrow, anyway. Like
Yeah.
they were really like leaning into that anime style, and whether you liked it or not, like that's where they wanted to go. And Portrait of Ruin was also looked that way too. So I think that's what, like, if there were like a new 2D Castlevania, I think it would look like a Netflix show.
I would just really love it to follow the same path that, like I mentioned, the Legacy Collection that like Mega Man seems to be following with Capcom, where it's like this series that fell off for so many people for all these years. Then suddenly they start like toying with the older games, like I mentioned, and then we get like a new one at the end of all these re-releases.
Right. Or, here's what you do.
Okay.
They just release a very simple fighting game. A Castlevania fighting game.
Judgment?
Oh, yeah, I guess another one, right? But it's just one level, one stage, and only 2 fighters. But basically just strip that part out from Smash and then just call that the next Castlevania game. Just have them do the work. Then you take that.
So it's like, so they both start at one end of the map, and it's like a MOBA where you have to go around the castle and kill stuff to level up and get weapons.
Yes.
First person to kill you.
P.S. Josh says, long live Beepo. Indeed. P.P.S. Dan Tag's remarks on Dead Cells absolutely blew my mind with how he was praising it so hard. He says, quote, this is from last week's episode, I'm Dan Tag. No, he says, this is the best roguelike I've ever played. Hands down. This is a masterpiece. This game is a gamer's game. This game is the This game is amazing. This game is incredible. I'm Dan Tag right now.
It's weird that he says that at the end of his.
You cut it out of the show every time. This guy found it.
Yeah,
found the secret audio.
Are you still digging Dead Cells, Kyle?
I got through the first boss a couple times. And
Okay.
I don't really expect myself to play it anymore.
Yeah.
Really?
I feel like that game tries very hard to get me to like roguelikes and procedural generation, and I'm just not happy. Like, I really like the way that game controls, but it's just every time I die, it's like,
People are turning up the podcast. Somebody has to sit there like Dead Cells quick.
I like Dead Cells. You can roll, and that's cool. You
There
can
we
jump
go.
and then roll.
Speaking of Castlevania, man, I would love to have that combat and controls like in a map that someone designed. That would be
A
amazing.
bespoke map that someone took care to make.
Someone drew
I will say,
modding community.
I like Dead Cells a lot, but the roguelike elements are my least favorite part. Yeah.
I like everything about the game except for the genre it was built on.
Have you played it, Hanson? Have you tried it?
Actually, yeah, I played it by last week's show as well. I like it more than I did when we recorded last week's episode. I played a little bit more and just got into that podcast groove, and I think it was like experimenting more with like the ice weapons and the ice blasts and stuff like that.
Ice
started having a
Kamehameha
lot of fun.
is nice. Like that's the thing. Like I found all these power ups I like, but it's just like the second I lose that.
Let's not complain about that game, please. Hey, GI Show, Joseph and Daya like the papaya. He says from Portland, Oregon, or Canada, whichever you prefer.
We're doing lively like a comedy bang bang catchphrase sort of thing now that we're doing.
I don't know what they can write this stuff. Who writes this stuff? I wanted to hear your thoughts on the recent. Here we go. IGN Dead Cells review controversy. As video game journalist yourself, how do you feel the situation? Have you ever had to deal with plagiarism accusations before?
I get where he's coming from, calling it a controversy, but I feel like controversy implies 2 sides, and I feel like it's just one guy who plagiarized several reviews. It's
Seems like
basically
everything
the entire
in his life.
repertoire.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is like, no, dude, you don't get to do that.
Yeah,
those are the 2 sides.
If you're not familiar, IGN posted a review of Dead Cells by Philip M. I forget how to pronounce his last name. There we go. Something like that. And then you slowly realize more and more, like, oh, he just kind of rewrote a lot of stuff from this other dude's YouTube channel and basically transcribed the YouTube video. Yeah, and then people have dug into it more and more, and all the way down to like his LinkedIn profile, like other articles. Yeah. It's like, well, at one point it feels like everything this dude wrote was taken from somebody else, which is just insane.
At one point, he plagiarized one of his own coworkers while at IGN. It was like,
and they were on the same podcast. Someone was just saying something that he just repeated it immediately after, and no one got it. It's interesting.
It's odd. It's
a fascinating little story, and I think IGN, as many people have pointed out, have done a very good job about like kicking this guy to the curb and trying to purge him from the earth and being like, well, our bad.
They are taking down everything he's ever written for the site.
It's such an awful position for them to be put into, and they've done I think the best job possible with like handling it after the fact.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, what else can they do really?
They severed ties immediately as soon as they looked into it and said like, yep, this looks like a 1-to-1 copy to me. Yeah, and then they've like, once they found out that it was more than just that one review, they've begun purging the entire site of his work.
And it's so hard for them because like the thing they could have done to prevent it is just not hire him, which is which is a hard thing. Like, it's easy in hindsight to say that, but it's just, there is an implicit trust when you hire someone that they're not going to do something like that. Like, specifically here, we don't run every piece of writing we make into, like, turn it in or something, right?
Yeah. But even if they did, like, they wouldn't have found it because it was a YouTube video, so it was like, so you can't say this text matches.
It is a thing that is can become so pervasive so easily, and it's just, but yeah, they've been handling it pretty well.
Yeah. A lot of good folks at IGN. Yeah. Don't hate them. I don't want to call anybody else out on staff here at Game Informer for plagiarism, but Ben Reeves recently, I was traveling a lot with him, and I was talking to him about, like, giving a best man speech or whatever at a wedding, and Reeves is like, yeah, I had to give one a couple years ago, and I had no idea how to do it. And he's like, so I just, like, looked up a bunch of best man speeches online. And he's like, and someone recommended opening with a joke. And so I just, like, took the joke. So Ben Reeves, in probably Colorado a couple years ago, opens his best man speech with this joke. Where he's like, all right, you guys want to bang on the glass here, pretend to give it a... Oh, speech, okay. Ben Reeves here. Woo! Giving a best man speech is a little bit like making love to the Queen Mother. It's a real honor, but no one wants to do it. And he said the room lost. They were laughing so hard at that joke. Queen Mother.
So I went to a wedding this past.
Isn't it Elizabeth II?
Okay, I went to a wedding this past weekend, and I will say that, like, a lot of people opened with jokes in their speeches, and I think that might be the easiest room, like, for a comedian.
Oh, 100%.
That and, like, flights, like when the flight attendant goes their little stand-up routine before they give, like, the safety instructions. Like, I thought you meant just a random passenger.
Hey, you mind if I practice this 5-minute bit on you real quick? When I kick down the door of the cockpit so I can get that microphone.
What are you gonna do? Kick the door open? You're here. You're stuck here.
Did I tell you about the Queen Mother?
Crazy.
Very weird. Anyways, Kyle from Athens, Georgia. Welcome. Solid name. Says, Dear Game Informer, I hate my name. No, my favorite podcast, other than G.I. Show, of course, thank you, is Blank Check, a movie podcast about auteur directors. For them, a blank check movie is one that's super ambitious, weird, and usually a commercial or critical failure. For example, Ang Lee's Hulk, Wachowski's Speed Racer, Brad Bird's Tomorrowland would be blank check movies. My question is, what do you think are some blank check games, other than the obvious Metal Gear Solid?
So games that, like, were very expensive but didn't do well?
I guess so. I'm more interested in, even if they're not out yet, but I love that idea of when creators are just given just truckloads of money and it's like, just do what you want.
Well, I feel like,
have full faith.
Like God of War this year's
great example.
Destiny 1, right? But that was that was a big acquisition.
But see, here's why that's not a blank check game. Is because they had to rush it out the door and, like, reboot the story in the last 10 months. Or
maybe blank check, but not, like, endless time. So it's like half the equation.
In a way, but yeah, I hear you.
So the question
God of War is good, very good.
Yeah, God of War.
And that's we talked about it 1,000 times, but that's the crazy thing with that game in general. Is just Cory Barlog's, just like his ability to make something amazing happen. And I'm sure he had to fight a million fights along the way, but, like, I don't know how that dude had that much cachet to, like, maintain that vision.
God of War 2 is really good.
Yeah, sure, it's very good, but, like, to that level of, like, no, trust me, one-shot camera. It's going to add years into this production and probably make half my staff want to quit at some point. But, like, we're going to do it because movies are cool. Like, it's just insane that they pulled that off, you know? That's a great one.
I mean, so Death Stranding, right?
Yep, for sure. Where Sony's just going to say, take your time. We'll give you what you want. I think another one, Activision, I bet, like, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I bet Activision's just like, here you go, Miyazaki, whatever you want, have at me.
Yeah. On the opposite end, I feel like Fortnite is very quickly becoming a game like that, where Epic can do basically whatever they want with it.
Their next game is going to be.
No, I'm saying, like, they're able to add Thanos in, like, that quickly. Like, they don't get that unless that game is enormously popular, and, like, some of the world building stuff they're doing, like the Cracks in the Sky, that is something that if that game is not as popular as it was, they wouldn't be able to do as quickly.
Sure.
And I think over the course of the game, they're just going to be, at this point, those people can, besides, breaking the balance or whatever, they're free to add or, experiment with that game structure, like, in however they want at this point.
Right. There's the blank check video game on NES.
Yeah.
I think another one, because it is the most profitable game 2K's ever released.
GTA 5?
I was going to say that, but hang on, now I'm second guessing it. But Borderlands 2, that can't be. Doesn't make sense. I know at some point Borderlands 2 broke some record. Maybe like non-Rockstar.
I mean, it's super successful.
Maybe
there's
non-Rockstar
no way it made
sales.
more than
There's no way it made more than GTA 5. Yeah, but there's some sort of record with that. Anyways,
GTA 5 is, I think, the highest grossing game of all time.
Highest grossing thing overall.
entertainment.
On planet Earth. But, no, seriously. But with Borderlands 3, I think it's another one where I bet 2K is just going to be like, take your time, man. Like, we're going to make so much money with that thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys need.
You know what's one that should be, but I probably isn't or won't feel like one, is the Pokemon RPG that's coming to Switch.
Totally.
Like, they're still going to, like, rein that in with budget and time. I mean, but they don't need to.
Breath of the Wild felt like that for a little bit. Like, they kept delaying it, and like saying, all right, you need more time, work this out. But at a certain point, they did have to call it.
I mean, ultimately, the development, like, it was 3 years, which is not that great.
But, like, it was delayed twice before it finally came out,
And it's not like Skyward Sword was like, we're sitting pretty, it's the best-selling Wii game of all time or something. Like, I think it sold fine. But I like the games where it's just like, we get to sit back because we made so much money, we have so much cachet. Like, I think Red Dead 2 is one. Lord knows it's taken them long enough. But, yeah.
Almost there.
Another one that's on the Nintendo one that really doesn't feel like it to me is Smash Brothers. Like that, that game's coming out really fast, so clearly they have a finish line that they feel like they need to hit.
Yeah,
but I mean, how long has it been in development though?
That's a good question.
Like it could have been in development 3 years before the Switch even.
Yeah, but I mean, when did the Wii U version of Smash Brothers come out?
2014,
3 years before the Switch came out.
So like maybe they've been working on it for 4 years. So they're doing all the DLC. So I don't know, split teams.
What do you guys think about? It seems like the internet is more fully convinced that mode that they teased that we talked about on last week's episode is a spirits mode.
Yeah.
What do you guys think that means?
I think the story just happens to involve the dead.
So, but is it single player? Though?
I would say so. I think it's going to be very close to like a.
Are you recovering spirits to unlock characters? Is Luigi was a Luigi an unlockable character?
You can't talk about that right now.
Well, I mean, Mario was killed in one of the cutscenes too.
They've said
that's true. They're not going to have Mario be unlocked
unless that's like the first thing you do.
Is unlock Mario?
Yeah, that'd be weird. Though. But like, because they said one weird thing they said was like, you're going to grow your roster, right? And you're going to start with the original N64 Smash Brothers roster,
but it's going to be fast.
Yes, and Luigi was unlockable, yeah.
So like maybe like
the story mode is like you save his soul, his spirit, and then
Mario goes to hell. So what was the unlockable
thing? It was Luigi, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Captain Falcon.
Yes.
Was Captain Falcon the fourth one?
Yes.
Yes. Captain Falcon was unlockable. Okay, so I would imagine those would be the first 4 you unlock.
Yeah, I think so. At least that's kind of what they're teasing or hinting.
What I was thinking, and then I realized very quickly that it's not right, and that's a dumb idea, and I shouldn't say it on a podcast, but
go for it. You can fix it in post.
Like the idea of a spirits mode where it's like, oh, that'd be cool if it's kind of like a Towerfall style thing of when you're voted out, you can still like float around the map and like interact with people, but that feels just like more of an option in Brawl in general. And like in the Brawl mode,
turn on spirit mode.
Right. And maybe they'll still have something like that, but I just love seeing that cool ghost form. It's a very Dragon Ball Ghost. But
but the spirit sort of thing, like, it's pretty solid with just the evidence that people are bringing forward.
But they did clarify that Luigi's okay.
That's true. Luigi is okay.
That throws that theory right out the window.
How did we get on this?
He's okay. They didn't say he's not dead. They said
Smash Brothers is one of those like blank check games.
I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I mean, I think it could be.
I mean, they pretty much said, all right, you can have every character ever in this series.
You can have them.
I feel like one last thing, like what Valve feels like they are building up to something because they hired like all of Campo Santo and they're hiring back writers.
Yeah, and Ollie Moss now, the artist behind Firewatch.
So I wonder if not Half-Life 3, I'm wondering if they're not building up like some sort of single player game, and I feel like if they are, I feel like that would be a blank check game because like Valve doesn't care. Like
that's not even a blank check. That's just the concept of the check doesn't exist. It's just whatever.
It exists entirely outside the means of capitalism as an entity. It's just like this product just gets made. You have no restrictions.
Do you think Gabe Newell's rich?
I'm sure he has a duck or two.
He is destitute.
Leo, can you Google how much he's worth again? It's always fun to remind yourself.
He sleeps in a box outside of the office.
$15?
He's got $15 on him right now.
He must be putting a lot of money into that game.
How much cash is in Gabe Newell's wallet
right now?
I'm guessing not much.
Gabe Newell, write in. Let us know.
$3 and like 15 cents in his pocket.
Yeah, and like 2 artifact cards he printed out the printer or something.
He just throws pennies. He doesn't even accept change at this point. Like, no, it's too burdensome on me.
Take my change.
What's the question?
Speaking of blank check, this next game is a blank check. Mitch in Houston. By the way, blank check the movie. I got a couple things. That juice joke is pretty solid. What is the juice joke again?
So you're waiting for a guy named Juice, and then the kid shows up. They don't know what Juice looks like.
Right.
And the kid shows up, and they look at him, and they kind of squint their eyes, and they go, Juice?
Yeah.
And he goes, no thanks. It's a good joke.
That's very funny.
Isn't that whole movie like he finds a check that
No.
have
He
anything
gets
written on it?
hit on the. He's biking, and he gets hit by a guy. The rich guy is like, "Here, I'll write you a check. Just don't do anything." And then like some mobsters go for him.
me.
Yeah, so he just like runs out of time and just hands the kid the check. But he signed it first, and so then the kid gets a blank check, and he gets to write in any amount. He's like $1 million, and then he only has
Dr. Evil.
he only has $1 million, and he's like goes by Mr. Macintosh, right? Because he was looking around the room in a classic '90s movie scene. He's like, of course, Macintosh, it's right here. But with $1 million, he like builds a full amusement park in his backyard. It's like that thing would cost millions.
It was
even in 1990. Yeah, not the 1890s. Jesus Christ. Anyways, Mitch in Houston writes in and says, "Great movie, incredible film."
I want to rewatch it.
Masterpiece. Can you guys
Watch it right now.
Criterion Collection.
Oh my God, we have to move on. Can you guys? You're the one that took us on the way.
You know what's very important here is an aside about the movie Blank Check.
Would you guys, or maybe just Leo, please cover the Quiet Man gameplay footage that quietly dropped this week? I haven't heard any coverage of it, and it's such a baffling project. Did you guys watch this thing?
I watched a little tiny bit.
Leo, did you watch that?
Yes.
What the was that? It's incredible.
Trust me, there's nothing I want more than to make videos about the Quiet Man all day. But I think all we have is that one stream from Japanese outlets.
Yeah.
It's so confusing. Okay, so what this is, they showed it at E3. Square Enix is partnering with Human Head, the
Maybe the worst E3 trailer of the last 5 or 10 years.
Right. It's just baffling. And what it is like a live action thing where some douchey looking guy just beats up thugs, and it's kind of doing a Quantum Break where it cuts back and forth between live action and then in game.
He doesn't talk.
He's deaf, I think, because every time in gameplay it cuts to him, it's just you can hear this dampened thud of him punching people and stuff. But first of all, the reveal trailer is just weird, and then this huge stream, which apparently they said I missed this detail, but the interns told me coming up later in the show that the game's only supposed to be 3 hours long, and this is like a 50-minute gameplay video that they showed now. It's so much time, and it's just these Japanese developers talking and laughing over the entire thing for this low-quality stream. It is insane. I don't know what the rollout of this game is, or if it'll ever come out.
It's like they're actively trying to make it just a laughable cult game.
Yeah.
They're we're going to make Deadly Premonition for the new era. You know?
But they're clearly inspired by, I'd imagine, Daredevil. What if Daredevil was deaf instead of blind, and it was cutting back and forth between live action? But hearing these Japanese developers reacting hard to every moment in that video, what the hell is happening? What is that game? Why is Square Enix paying for that?
Aren't we intrigued now, though?
I do remember I was actually in a cab during E3 when the Square Enix thing was happening. I was watching it on my phone, and I remember my Uber driver asked me a question, and I was just so dumbfounded by what I was watching that I was I had to have him repeat the question.
Right. And he says, "Have you ever heard of the Quiet Man? It's making a lot of buzz on the internet right now." Let's see. Nick from Atlanta says, "Hello, G.I. Shu. G.I. Shu. Hello, my Shu. I don't have any first-hand experience with coding a video game, so there may be better sources for this. That said, one of the reasons games have a start menu in modern times, this is based on last week's show, is to figure out which controller is the primary controller. These days, that's especially important when modern systems have 4 more controllers connected at a time that are equally valid as being the primary one." Also, Griffin Raider wrote in and says, "Hey, Ben and crew, in reference to last week's email from Rich Lynch about pressing start screens of games, this ubiquitous prompt originally appeared as a cheap solution for game developers who are porting arcade games to home consoles. Arcade cabinets were designed to require the player to put coins in before starting to play. Developers found it easier than to change the text on the screen from insert coin to press start, than they just moved the screen entirely. But fast forward to present day, you'd think the practice would have fallen by the wayside, right? Well, it turns out Microsoft now requires developers to include a press start screen in all Xbox games. Xbox consoles use this screen to check which of possibly several connected wireless controllers is actually going to use to play the game. Without this check, Xbox games allegedly can't be certified for publication."
I wish it was on last game because I knew that.
Do the GTA games do that? I feel like that just it has that loading screen with like all the artwork, and that just dumps you into gameplay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. There must be some sort of press start. I don't know. If anybody can disprove either of those, I would love to hear it.
That's super interesting, though.
Let's get it rolling. Dan from Oxford, Massachusetts. Damn it! I really thought I knew.
You're the only one who has the paper. You can just guess with confidence.
But I can't when it wins, and then I have to put it on the board.
You could make it up and no one would know, except for the letter writer who
there we go.
just ignore.
Oxford, Massachusetts. Dan says, "Hey, if life was a video game, what would speedrunners do?
Parkour, die very quickly,
roll everywhere."
Just glitch through walls in time and space.
Yeah, they're just like struggling to glitch through a wall, like a speedrunner where they just rub up against it for like they're hoping quantum physics will let them through.
Depends on whether they're going for an any percent or 100%.
Oh, yeah, any percent through life.
Yeah,
that's surreal style. Any percent will do.
Mean jokes.
Mean jokes. Ryan L. from Geneva, Illinois says, "Hey guys, with Nintendo releasing GameCube controllers once again for Smash, any idea why they aren't releasing new Wavebirds? I use mine all the time on the Wii U with the GameCube adapter, and it works great. Would love to pick up a few new ones for Smash this fall."
I love the Wavebird. I still used it on my Wii U as well.
Yeah.
But I thought that I heard somewhere it was something with like the technology. Like it was like a weird, like it's not Bluetooth, so it gets a lot of interference. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, what they should do is just, use instead of the Pro controller, just put it in a GameCube shell.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they doing that? Because I think it's a solid question.
But they're putting out another GameCube adapter, so you have to buy more stuff.
Yeah, but that takes up 2 USB ports. I'm like, why isn't there just the GameCube mold as a wireless controller for the Switch?
They could sell those for a pretty penny.
I would buy one of those.
That's interesting.
I would much rather have that than buy the wired one and take up multiple USB ports and
What else do you use those USB ports for?
I use a lot of USB ports.
It's for Ethernet.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think of that. I stand corrected. This just feels really like a Give Mouse a Quickie situation. They're re-releasing GameCube controllers usable for the Nintendo Switch in the year 2018. Like, we should still be thanking Nintendo for that.
Yes, that's
or you could just use a modern controller.
I mean, the Pro controller is great.
The Pro controller is awesome.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Jay, you know what one of your tics is? If I was ever playing poker with you, I don't know what it means, but I would notice it. Is you do this a lot. Like sometimes when you're talking, you'll put like your hand a little bit on your head and like tilt your head a little bit. You know that you do that?
I do now.
You just it's usually when you're like thinking. It's very funny
because I have a lot of.
You have a weird tic where whenever you say a profanity, you have to like scratch on your paper.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's really weird.
Oh, dude, there it goes right there.
I don't know what's happening.
You look up in the corner, that's some kind of clock.
Very strange. Thanks.
What is this? Is this being recorded?
Okay, Charles from Gorham, Maine says, "Hey, I've been seeing a lot of Game of the Year so far lists and have noticed Dragon Ball Fighters on many of them. This got me thinking,
as it should be.
Wow, it's got me thinking. Do you think it's possible for a game from one of the more niche genres, fighter, simulation, turn-based tactical games, etc., to win Game of the Year from a mainstream media outlet, or even the Game Awards? I'd like to think so, but at the same time, I can't picture it. I feel like just due to the smaller fan bases involved in these games, the hype train would never build up enough steam to get it that much consideration. I know Game Informer once almost gave XCOM Game of the Year. Correct. What a mistake. But that's the only... No, mistake, we didn't do that, I'm saying. But that's the only time I've heard of something not in one of the biggest genres, RPGs, shooters, adventure games, coming close.
I mean, I feel like you could look at Overwatch. I mean, it's ubiquitous now, but like a couple of years ago, you would say like a multiplayer-only shooter getting like Game of the Year would be surprising.
Yes, that's true. I mean,
not just Game of the Year, but like
that's still how Kyle feels.
That's ignoring that fact.
You are wrong, but
sometimes, I'm just saying like genres can elevate and become like huge, and a fighter could if it was.
I feel like it would be very difficult because I feel fighters are a lot more niche than shooters, and especially at this outlet, it feels like I would have to fight very hard for that game.
I mean, even
though I would like to, I just know I'm not going to win that fight.
I love fighting games a lot. Like I've played them since I had an SNES, but I feel like a fighting game to win Game of the Year would have to have the impact that like Street Fighter 2 had, something like that, like in order to compete with like the revolutionary stuff we see in those other genres that do typically win.
And fun fact, I looked this up when Overwatch won because I was thinking like when was the last time we gave a multiplayer only game a Game of the Year, and Street Fighter 2 is the only fighting game that's ever won.
Oh, really? Oh, right. Right. I think that was a little bit fudge too, because I don't think we officially ordained the game of the year back then, but it was just, I think it was like at some point we implied.
I didn't have it.
I'm just saying, technically.
Well, okay, look, on the page that I was looking at, it said 1992 Street Fighter 2, right?
And that's legit. That counts.
So, he throws a fireball and hits the guy.
Do you think Fighters is going to be your game of the year, Surreal?
I think, yeah. So far, it still is.
Wow. What could unthrone it?
Maybe Spider-Man, maybe Red Dead, but honestly, like, the more I hear about Red Dead, the less I think I'm gonna like it as much as one. Because I am not about camp maintenance stuff. Like, that is really my chief complaint. I know, like, what I've seen over the footage, like, that looks like an incredible game, like, technologically, but the idea of, like, oh, every time you're gonna go visit your camp and talk to your buds and resupply on food, I'm just like, I'd rather just tackle a story instead of having to maintain this stuff. But otherwise, still pretty excited.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Hello, Ben and the GI crew. This is Joe G from Rio Rancho, New Mexico. I was thinking about how I loved all the Rush games and played them for hours on end as a kid. My favorite parts were finding all the secret areas and collecting the ever-iconic Mountain Dew cans using cheats. If the Rush IP ever got sold and a new Rush were possible, who do you think would be a good fit to develop and publish it? I think Bethesda or Insomniac would have the style of world-building mechanics and graphics needed for a game like Rush.
So, we're talking like San Francisco Rush?
Yeah, LA Rush.
So the racing Rush games.
I like world building of Rush.
I really like
At some point there is like a Rush lore nerd. I would love to hear that.
I really like the Game Over song in San Francisco Rush, if you remember that.
How does that go?
It just spells game over.
Wait, let's find it. Leo, can you find that sucker?
Wait, Leo, wake up.
Stopping his speed at the peculiar nature of this.
By the way, that might be a harder task than you think, because I think I've looked for it in the past.
Oh, really?
No, San Francisco Rush. I've heard the Game Over one. It's the What's Your Name, like the name entry song.
Oh, are you changing it?
No, both of them are just total masterpieces of composition, but the What's Your Name one is hard to find.
Okay, I would love to hear any of them. Rush, I was looking up the history of Rush, and like, oh, there's the What's Your Name. Crank it. Oh, Hamilton.
Maybe it's the Game Over one you can't find it.
And it adapts based on what you're typing in? No. Oh, that sucks.
I know. Well, that's what I can do for this new one.
And this song should be like on kids shows.
Yeah. It reminds me of like that Twisted Pixel style of music, you know?
Right.
It's called good music.
What's your name?
That's your name. I was waiting for that part in particular. That's good. Good job, Jake.
Apparently they released a game on PSP, which I think is maybe the last one they released, 2006, and it's just called Rush. Like they rebooted it on PSP, which is a weird thing just to lock it out there.
And what are the tenets of Rush? It's like it's pretty like big arcadey racing. I remember like big like circular ramps that you could find off of the like those were the shortcuts you could find. I remember like finding a half pipe. Remember Rush 2049 where you could like your car could sprout wings. I'm thinking of. Okay. Like you'd go off ramps, your car could sprout wings, and you would just like do barrel rolls through the air. Like, as you glided towards Earth. This emailer should check out Distance. The game Distance. It's like a really crazy racing game like that where you're flying.
It's not some VR crap, is it?
No. You can play it in VR, but you shouldn't. Because it's much better outside of VR.
There we go. Cool. Yep, there we go. And yep, this time we actually make it. Aaron writes in and says, "Hey guys, this is Aaron from St. Nicholas, Belgium. Okay, here's the thinker. I took a look at what Game Informer was all about back when you guys did your Spider-Man cover story, and I've been a fan of all things Game Informer ever since. Oh, cool. Isn't it nice when cover stories bring people in? Yeah. I'm currently studying here at home in Belgium, but I'll be leaving for Korea on August 25th to study there for 5 months. Now, as you know, fall is the big gaming season, and some of my most anticipated games will be coming out in fall. Now, for most of these games, I could easily wait 5 months to play them, except for these two, Spider-Man and Red Dead 2. I cannot stress enough how hyped I am for these games. I could bring my PS4 with me to play those games over there, but I'm really scared that this will tempt me to lock myself away from social interaction and escape into games instead of going out there and meeting people in Korea. On the other hand, if I didn't bring it and ended up having lots of social interaction and lots of free time, I'll never forgive myself knowing I could have been playing these games without any trouble. And he doesn't want the games to be spoiled for him if he waits. He really isn't sure what to do.
Bring it. But here's the thing. Either set limits on how much you can play per day, or only bring those two games. Like, delete everything else off your hard drive and only have those two games.
Never connect your PS4 to the internet?
Well, you can connect your PS4 to the internet, but just don't let yourself re-download any of those games or reinstall any of those other games.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an easy solution. Like just setting personal limits, I think it's
Also, 5 months, like, and I don't know exactly. Okay, so he's leaving on August 25th, so he'll have a little bit of time, like a week or so there before Spider-Man comes out. Just go hot and heavy social on those nights. Like, don't go home until 3 in the morning. Where would you recommend going in Korea? Cyril, you were just talking about this.
Go to the PC malls?
Yep, go there. I don't know what he said. Just be as social as humanly possible to make up for it, and then just, September 7th through September 15th, however long it takes to play that game, you'll probably beat it. Just go hard on that, and then cut off, and then be as social again as possible.
Until Red Dead.
Did you guys bring your consoles when you went to college?
Oh, yeah.
You did? Okay. I was trying to be cool, and I'm barely into video games. And so, I didn't bring anything other than my computer the other day, too. That's true. For, the start of college. And then, the second half, when I realized, my roommates freshman year were kind of into it, then it was all right, I'm playing through Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo again, and Pokemon Red and all this stuff.
Oh, no, I totally had my Xbox. We played Halo 2 every single night in the dorms.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big social element of college for me, was having my Xbox and playing Halo.
Yeah.
That's how I got along with my neighbors the first night. They were playing Halo, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll jump in here. Oh, yeah. That's perfect. It's me, Kyle. Let's play some Halo.
So, yeah, be strict, and then hot and heavy on both fronts. All game or all social. And there's going to be that gap between Spider-Man and Red Dead 2. Really make the most of that.
If you get home from whatever you're doing over in Korea at 6 p.m., you can play Spider-Man for a few hours and then go out.
No, that's what I'm saying. Never go home.
The two voices in his head fighting.
Right.
Just bring it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I think
you'll be good.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay as long as you
just don't lock yourself away.
Prioritize plans over playing games.
Okay,
but you're not going to have plans every single night, right?
Well, you don't know this dude. Maybe you do. Okay, email of the week. What do you guys like?
Oof.
Actually, I kind of like the last one. It's an interesting debate.
It is interesting.
I like the blank check.
Yeah, the blank check.
I like
Blank Check
went places. A lot. I like the Metal Gear movie, but that was just me talking too much.
Yeah.
I like Blank Check.
Also known as the
Blank Check is good.
It's true. All right, congratulations. This is Kyle from Athens, Georgia. Congratulations, Athens. Put you on the big board. Hey, in honor of Assassin's Creed Odyssey coming out. Hey, cool stuff. All right, for now, you guys want to hear from a workable batch of interns?
Yeah, always.
Do it. All right, learn all about it. Stay tuned. It's a fun chat. Here it is. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here, now joined by our wonderful, lovely group of outgoing interns, Camden Jones, Derek Swinhart, big voices all around, Jacob Geller.
Hi there.
Oh my gosh, welcome to the big show, you guys. Let's see. Derek, were you on it once before?
I have been on it.
To talk about what exactly?
Military games, yeah.
That's right. You are a military expert because you grew up in a barracks or something like that.
Sure.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. This is your guys' last day at Game Informer. How long have you been here?
3 months since May 16th?
15th.
15. Oh my gosh. Over.
to sum it up. Camden, what do you think?
10 out of 10.
Wow! All right. Another Game Informer.
It's Overwatch. It's Breath of the Wild.
Exactly.
It's Metal Gear Solid 2. It's regrettably Skyward Sword. All the greats. Whatever you want. What don't I know about being an intern? And therefore the audience doesn't know.
It's really hot in the intern room.
Yeah, so the interns are all in one packed room on the 3rd floor. It's lovely. It seems like you guys really get to know each other. It's a nice layout, but it gets to be hot.
Oh boy. Yeah, on E3 week, half the like staff was gone, and so we got to move upstairs, and everyone else was like, "Oh boy, E3." And we were like, "We get to sit with the big boys. We have air conditioning. This is incredible."
Okay, other than torture, you guys have had like an interesting run here. I think it's one of the most interesting eras for Game Informer because not only did you guys get to cover E3, you got Summertime in Minneapolis, which I think is lovely, and then also you got the new site. Yeah. You guys were involved in the testing of all that stuff, right? Do you want to? Let's start with, let's say E3. What was E3 coverage like for you guys? Other than cool,
Busy. It was very like. I think it was the most pressure we were ever under. I mean, obviously, because we were all like sitting together watching the press conferences with all of the actual editors.
Right.
And it felt like there was much more pressure to get things done super quickly and like.
Yeah,
you had to be paying really close attention to what you were watching
because somebody would yell out like, "Hey, let's see, Derek, do you want to write this one up?" And it's like, okay, yeah, what is Phil Spencer actually saying here? What are the details?
Yeah.
Okay, is it fun?
Yeah.
There was a moment when the Devil May Cry 5 trailer came out that everyone in the room was yelling back and forth, like, "Is this Dante? Is this Nero? Who is this guy?"
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I had to write that story, and I had never played this game, so I was like, "What's going on? Who is this?"
And that's why the headline was, "Is this Dante? Is this Nero? Comma, who is this guy?"
Yeah, really, the hardest part is we were on a rotation for stories, so you weren't just like, "Oh, I'll take Devil May Cry." It was like, "Oh, you get Kingdom Hearts," and you have no idea what it is.
Everybody gets Kingdom Hearts.
So it's like trying to pump out that story in time for your next one, and you're like, "Kim, what is Kingdom Hearts?"
Oh God! And then she starts crying, trying to explain it because it's such a powerful storyline just for this new story. It's got everything you need. Any surprises from E3 coverage? Was it? I mean, I know a couple of you have followed Game Informer in the past. Was it about what you expected, like during E3 and maybe beyond? Or like, yeah, it's about what I expected the office to be like.
It was weird how few people were here.
Yeah,
it was other than us. I don't know. There was Leo, and then like Joe and Dan, and that's about it. I mean,
yeah, I think it was Joe, Dan, and Matt.
Yeah,
but it felt abandoned
because everybody else was in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Leo was here until 4 in the morning every night cranking out those 23 videos. What a mess. Okay, what about like overall, Derek? Overall Game Informer, were there any surprises about just maybe watching replay for a couple years and then getting in this office and realizing like, oh, it's more this than I thought?
I think it's a little more
boring.
No, I think one thing I definitely learned is that people here are a lot busier than you maybe would think they would be. You'd be like, oh, they're just kind of like chilling at their desk, playing games, like writing reviews, doing news articles and stuff. It's like, no, they're constantly like going places or having to deal with, I don't know, news like PR or stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what takes up people's times, but they seem busy-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, people travel all the time.
That's
right. Everybody, it's hard to get in touch. Like, nobody's ever here at the same time.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that's why scheduling a podcast is a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's always like a third of the office is here.
Yeah, it's confusing how that works out. So we have people leaving the office. We also have people coming to the office. And there were 2 moments that I know you guys are like old school replay fans and stuff. So I think like Tim Turry came by early on, and I really, really blew it. But I think introducing Derek as Jacob to him, which I still hate myself for blowing that because I really thought I had your guys' names down at that early point.
On the plus side, Tim thinks I'm way more muscular than I am. So
that's true. And then the other one was Dan Reichert was coming through over like the 4th of July, and Derek wanted to meet him. He insisted on it.
No, so I don't know about that.
And then he insisted that I take his picture with him. He would not leave until that happened because you're a big Tale of the Sun.
Said, Ben, please grab a copy of Tale of the Sun out of the vault and let me take a picture with Dan, please.
Because you were asking, like, when's Dan coming by?
I said, like, oh, I had heard you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, when is he coming by?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, he's here in a minute. And I was like, all right, I'll hang around. And then you forced me to nail things to a wall, and then you were like, take this copy of Tales of the Sun and take a picture with Dan.
But now, aren't you happy that you have that?
Sure.
Okay. And I thought you were like a Dan Reichert super fan.
No.
And then it turns out that you're like, I just like Tales of the Sun. Like I don't even follow Giant Bob stuff. I don't even know what the hell he's doing over
I
there.
was like, I liked him on replay.
He's still doing stuff. He still talks about games all the time.
Yeah, he's dead.
I understand. That's right. Okay, website. When did you first hear about that? What type of testing did you do? What was that experience like for you guys?
Pretty much when we came here and we were getting training, it was like, yeah, this isn't going to matter in like a couple weeks.
Good luck. Yeah. You have to learn to understand 2 websites.
Yeah. And then we started testing maybe pretty quickly, 2 weeks after we got here, something like that.
And so we like locked people in the 3rd floor conference room, and it was basically just, hey, kick this website around, try and break it, find out, doing normal stories like what is not working as smoothly as you'd like.
Yeah, so we had like every platform imaginable. Like I spent like 3 days doing different mobile phones. Like try as like, well, does submitting a video work on an Android running Chrome?
That's funny.
Oh boy. I was glad we moved past that. The new website's great.
Yeah, it is pretty smooth. But you guys get to see both. That's so wild. I also like looking back on that website launch. I think it's maybe the most fascinating era that I've seen from like Andy McNamara in particular, because he's so into it and he was so involved. Did you learn anything about working with Andy from that? Because he was in the room as well, right?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, he was really nice, and he's been nice to us the whole time, obviously. And kind of, I don't know, he's been more hands-on than I expected him to be, especially with the website and stuff like that. So it was cool to kind of have a good amount of interaction with him, which I wasn't expecting.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Also, he wears Destiny t-shirts like every day.
Yeah, he even has like, I think when he goes biking, he has like a Lycra Destiny full body suit and like a Destiny helmet. He plays with his Destiny dolls on his handlebars as he's biking around. It's a whole complicated thing.
It's worth noting with the new site as well as like everything else, but like every single detail was just agonized over. You know, it's like nothing was just like, yeah, I guess we'll throw that in. It was like everything was, okay, this is the result of like 10 different options, and this isn't the best, but you know, we compromised and we got here and whatever. And it was an interesting process.
It's that fun abstract thing of, you know, like Margaret, Curtis, and everybody in production did a lot of work on the website, just thinking like, yeah, it's building a gaming website. It's like, wait a minute, there are millions of little decisions you have to make and figure out like, how far can we push this tech? What can we do in this amount of time? How do we launch before E3? Should we launch before E3? It was a nightmare, but fun.
Yeah, thank God it was before E3, because making those stories during E3 would have been a disaster on the whole website.
Yeah,
I don't know how anybody did it.
And imagine if the website was constantly going down like it has in previous E3s, which is not great. Okay, overall, you've all been in some videos and stuff, right? Or what about like reading comments of your news stories? What about like interacting with the community? Any funky feedback? Are you shocked by what it's like to read comments about yourself?
Shout out to Zangmaster. He's always in the comments of like every video, and he ends every comment with LOL. And
he makes us feel good.
Yeah, he's super positive.
Yep.
Really? Everybody loves the Zangmaster guy?
Yeah. He's just almost on every article, and we always look, and he's just always like, "Oh, this looks cool, lol."
How'd you like it?
It's great. Yeah.
Could be a bot at this point, actually.
Are really positive, though. I mean, like, I think one of the things for like the readers to understand is like everyone's writing about something because they care about it generally, and so it's like, yeah, this is maybe the 5th Destiny piece that's come out this month, but that's because Camden can't stop playing Destiny.
Yeah, okay, that's your favorite game right now is Destiny still?
Well, I was loaning, or I was borrowing Derek's PS4, so I had to give it back to him, and now I have no Destiny.
Oh, I'm very
sorry.
Now
it's not my favorite game.
What is your favorite game of all time, Camden?
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic
2!
2! Yes.
You cool hipster underdog loving. Have you played like the new content on PC and all that stuff? The weird stuff that's modded back in?
I haven't. No. I played it on the original Xbox, and then played it again on PC, but without the mods.
Okay. That's cool.
It's like a buggy mess, but the writing is so great, and the characters are awesome.
God, I should play that at some point. I started it, but my problem is I started it right after I beat the first KOTOR, and even just like, I love the first KOTOR, but seeing like that the UI and inventory was the same in the second one, that was enough for me to be like, I don't want to do any more of this. Like, I've just bitten off this whole cake, as the expression goes.
That's what they say.
Anyways, Derek, what's your favorite game?
Oh boy. I'll go with Metal Gear Solid 3.
3. Yeah. Okay, why 3?
I think it's a really good standalone, like Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody can jump into it. So I think it has this really, not compact story, but
good God, no.
A good, like, one that you can kind of jump into and understand for the most part.
Favorite specific moment in 3?
Oh man. I like when he gets tortured by, what's his name? Vulcan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vulcan. I want to say Vulcan. That's a good one. You have to, like, crawl out and, like, jump out of, like, the drain pipe.
Right. And then it's just, like, that fugitive scene.
Yeah.
Alright, Kojima. We've all seen Fugitive. It's cool, I guess. Alright, Jacob, number 1 game.
Shadow of the Colossus,
correct,
probably, but my more interesting answer is the Beginner's Guide, the like Davey Reed weirdo game.
That's right, I forgot you love that thing.
Yeah.
Why do you love that game so much?
It's an extremely specific kind of emotional point that he's going for, and it feels like super personal to him. And it just so happens to also hit me. You know, like I wouldn't try to make other people play it necessarily. I don't think it should be everyone's favorite game, but just like,
I wouldn't even recommend playing it at all. Yeah,
don't buy it.
Don't even watch it.
For me, you know, it's a very like raw game. You know, it's really honest, and it just kind of like hits my emotional beats.
It's so rare and unique just to have that style of game and working through a series of prototypes. There's really nothing else like it in the industry, which is pretty rare for, you know, the game industry these days and all, and whatnot, I suppose. Okay, let's see. I thought for sure, Jacob, you're going to say Beat Saber is your favorite game.
It's in my, I'm going to say top 5 of all time.
Holy cow, this is the VR game we talked about a while ago where you have 2 lightsabers, you're slicing and dicing. Every day where it's like, where's Jacob? What is going on with Jacob? We go over to the VR room and you will have rebuilt that thing 6 ways a Sunday because it keeps breaking down. No, that's fine. I don't think you're being lazy about it. You played so much Beat Saber. Like, how much time did you clock into Beat Saber?
I played, I got my stuff done, everyone. I'm a good writer. I played between 30 minutes and an hour of Beat Saber pretty much every day I was here for the past 2 months.
Are you a huge music rhythm guy?
I've played Guitar Hero. I like audio surf. You know, I enjoy the subgenre, but it is really, I have hit it off with this game like no other.
Jeez, it is very fun. And so you did something which I really appreciate, even if it's not entirely legal. I don't know exactly how it works. But how does it work? Because they patched in other songs, like community-built stuff, into Beat Saber? How does that...
Right, so there's a really strong modding community that almost immediately when the game came out kind of made an in-game browser, and then people map the songs. And so they're not generated by algorithms. Everyone has to build them individually. But there is this really dedicated team out there who will make songs.
Like, you put, I think, exhibits, like X Gonna Give It To You.
X Gonna Give It To You is a great one.
Yeah.
Caravan Palace, like a lot of that kind of like electro swing.
Okay.
That's really good. There's this mapper, I want to shout him out, Benny the Beast on YouTube and Beat Saber makes like the most fun tracks I've ever played. And it'll just be, you know, it's be like Shut Up and Dance With Me, which is not a song that I would like jam out to normally, but like on Beat Saber, that song is amazing.
The opening track from Tetris Effect, which we've raved about before on this podcast, is so incredible playing that in Beat Saber. But obviously the star of the show is what you did, I think, earlier this week?
2 days ago.
Okay, explain what happened there.
So, a man named King Pesh,
a god
named King Pesh, released the full audio track of Shrek the movie, and not the soundtrack, which is great in its own right, but like from the DreamWorks logo to the last, you know, needle drop, every part of Shrek was put in and then tracked. And so when Shrek was saying, "Get out of my swamp," and like waving his arms, you would wave your arms to simulate it.
So it was like simulating their motions rather than like hitting every word that they're saying?
It was kind of a mix of both. You know, like when Donkey is talking, Eddie Murphy is super fast, and so it got really hard because he talked so quickly. And then when like there's the scene with Robin Hood where he's like, "Oh, merry man," and you go like that.
So it's like projecting, like, I don't know what you'd say for the audio listeners about what that motion is.
Oh yeah, so you would kind of do like a broad beckoning gesture. And it's an hour and a half long movie, and I did the whole thing, and no one should stay in VR that long.
Oh my god! And you wrote about it.
Yeah, it's up on the site now with a truly horrifying, like, clickbaity image. So go read that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's the feature you're most proud of, number one. Sure. Okay, sure. Camden, what feature are you most proud of that you wrote this term?
I did a feature on reverse engineering. So I talked to these people who kind of disassembled this Pokemon Gold and Silver demo.
That's right.
Like, was originally it was playable in 1997, which was like 2 years before the game came out.
Yeah.
So there were like a ton of weird differences from the actual final game that were always kind of like rumored. And then
so like weird evolutions and stuff. Like I'm trying to remember what.
Yeah, like there. I don't remember the exact number, but there's a ton of Pokemon designs that were completely unused in the final game that were kind of like rumored for a while, but no one ever actually had proof except for like some blurry photos of like off-screen, gameplay.
Yeah.
And then it got leaked online by someone to this Discord. Yes, thank you, whoever you are. And then these people kind of like disassembled it and went through all the files. They found all the sprites of the unused Pokemon and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also talked to someone who reverse engineered the original Diablo's source code, which makes it easier to modify and kind of.
And it hadn't been done up until that point?
No, not entirely. Like, a lot of the modding had just been through, like, the hard-coded stuff that was accessible publicly, but he literally just, like, just kind of went through and redid the whole
thing. Do you like programming?
No, I had no interest in it at all, and pretty much no understanding, but I was like, originally the idea was just to talk to the Pokemon people and just be like, oh, well, how'd you do this? But then it turned into a bigger feature about reverse engineering in general and kind of why these people dedicate a ton of time to kind of disassembling these games, and basically they spend all this time just to preserve it.
Yeah, it's incredible. History appreciates it for sure. If people wanted to read that feature, what would they search for?
What would the actual title is? Game Informer.
Okay, smart.
I think it's Hackers Preserving Gaming History.
Okay, something like that. That sounds great. I've been meaning to ask you, Camden, how old are you? 21. How old are you, Derek?
26.
How old are you, Jacob?
23.
Okay, well, Derek has a gift for you guys.
I do.
Derek gave me a wonderful beer from his hometown here. What is this, Derek?
It's Hodad.
Hodad?
Hodad.
Where did you get it, and why did you give this to me a long time ago?
I just needed to get rid of it because I don't really drink beer, and I had a bunch of them, and it's my favorite beer, probably.
Even though you don't drink it?
I don't drink frequently.
Okay.
And it is from Fiddlehead Brewery in Vermont.
There we go. That's where you're from?
Yes, and it's very rare. You can only get it there.
Oh, really? So it's worth a fortune.
It's like $75 a case.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
I shouldn't have cracked this sucker open at all. Oh my god, I regret it. What do you think about Dragon Ball Super these days, Derek?
It's pretty good.
How far are you?
I'm not far past the Future Trunks stuff. It's gotten a little better getting towards the tournament, things like that. But,
okay.
Getting back to the tournament is a good idea.
For sure. Although, like, I'm in the English dub, but I'm still a couple episodes behind. I love that post Future Trunks stuff so much. I think it's so funny and weird. Even like where there's a couple episodes where it's incredible. They're all just arguing about what to wish for. It's so much fun. And even like there's episodes beyond that where
there were so many of them.
Serious again.
I saw one of them
just in this way where they're shooting Dragon Ball like they've never done it before. Just like these weird, quiet moments, a lot of close-up shots of Goku. Things are weird. Things are mysterious and confusing. It's incredible. It's the most interesting era of Dragon Ball Super, I feel like. It's right now for the English stuff.
I think they had the Future Trunks arc, and they were just like, wow, this was
still so close to level
like 15 different endings.
Yeah.
He turns into Jesus at the end and slices a like weird goo monster in half.
Yeah.
Plays like crazy religious wired weapons. And the sky becomes an alien. And
oh yeah, that's right, that happened.
And then a little baby shows up and is like, "Go away!" and just kills everybody in this universe.
I completely forgot.
Insanity.
Yeah, it's insane, and then you completely forget about it, which is the worst kind of insane. It's not like Metal Gear insane. It's like, what?
And then
what's happening?
Yeah, and in classic Dragon Ball like fashion, all of a sudden it's just idiots trying to wish for like hot girls
and playing baseball,
food and playing baseball.
Yeah.
It's like, what is happening?
Now that's
I guess you can play out.
All right, Derek, what feature you most proud of?
I did a big one on early access. I interviewed a lot of people. About 3 people from Crytek. From Darkest Dungeon for the Hunt Showdown.
Oh, okay.
One from System Era for Astroneer, and 2 folks from Motion Twin for Dead Cell.
Alright, the Motion Twin is interesting. So you interviewed them before the game came out, but people were still so hot with it in early access. What did you learn from Lucas in particular?
Mostly, they seem super open to community feedback, and they changed feature systems in the game just based on community stuff. Like, for the most part, they're really dead set on what kind of game they wanted to make.
Yeah.
But then, Sebastian Menard, who's like the lead designer, he would just peruse forums and found people talking about the skill system. And it was just like, oh, they made really valid points. Like, I'm going to basically lock myself in a room and change the entire skill system. He just like went to the team. It's like, I'm going to change the whole skill system, and everybody was kind of scared. And then he just disappeared and did that and came back. And now it is what it is, because originally apparently it was like Skyrim, where it was just 3 stats and you just put like more into like magic or stamina or health, and now it's kind of weird.
It's weird that he would just lock himself away and do that, because I mean the stories that you hear about that studio is like, oh, everyone's paid the same, everybody has to completely agree in every decision, so it's nice that at least one time lightning struck at the studio.
Yeah,
I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, it sounds like they have a lot of creative freedom, but they're just all very open with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
it's sure it's in the vicinity.
Yeah, and do you get a sense of how the Hunt Showdown is doing? Are people playing that thing?
I think it has a really dedicated community, especially playing it myself. You find most of the people that you get maximum. Okay. It seems, I don't know, they're plugging away at it. It's very pretty, it runs well, depending, but for the most part, it runs much better than early access games.
Okay.
That are more multiplayer focused, especially with that level of like visual fidelity. But yeah, I don't know. It's got to be a hard thing to do at a AAA studio plugging away at this game that really probably doesn't have the same numbers as, well, obviously not something like PUBG.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think they're just kind of, maybe they're treating the 1.0 release as like a full AAA release, and maybe they'll coincide with consoles or something.
Yeah, that seems likely.
Push it all out.
I can see it.
Because otherwise it's just kind of like, wow, it seems like a lot of resources to spend. I don't know how big the player base is, but it can't be massive.
Right.
They've been really good about updating it and kind of switched their, based on community feedback, they switched off and they updated it. From originally they were pushing out bigger content every couple of months to the point where they're like, oh yeah, we push out stuff basically every 2 months. And then it was like stuff a little further down the line, so they basically do 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks and 4 weeks are basically the longest they'll go.
Gotcha.
And each one will be like a different tier of like size.
Okay. So what is the thesis based on this early access feature? What did you realize? What's the conclusions? Hey, some games should stay in early access for a long time.
No, it's mostly, I've never been hot on early access.
Yeah.
And I think it really showed not only how challenging it is, but just a lot of weird issues that you don't think would come up. And it's, like for Crytek, they're like, yeah, AAA, it was actually easier to do AAA development. Because you basically just crunch and develop for like 3 years, and then you're done, and you take a break. Whereas for early access, they've already done that. But then now they're just continuously developing on it. Endlessly.
There's no vacation time.
Yeah, and especially for a multiplayer game like that, and it's still pretty early on. They have like 1 map.
Yeah.
And it's like PUBG, where it's a big, well-designed map that has lasted a long time, but it's still just, it's like there's no end in sight, which makes it a difficult prospect. And then the other thing is you have to launch your game twice, basically.
Right.
And Tyler Sigmund, who's one of the guys guys on Darkest Dungeon because I had asked him. Oh, you guys had him on?
Yeah, we had him on a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, oh, how do you deal with releasing it twice? And he's like, well, we had like 3 times as many sales in the early access launch than we did when we actually launched the game.
And I wonder if that's a product also of Steam placement, right? Because I don't think that every time Steam will like populate stuff back in the new releases category, you're going to go 1.0. I feel like that is where just the majority of eyeballs will come across that thing, right?
Yeah, usually, like, Dead Cells was on the cover of the Steam game.
Okay.
Damn it.
Brainer.
Really?
And I'm sure Darkest Dungeon was, but I think so many people that were
Hey, Pablo.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, especially now with Switch and stuff, to try and push a console.
Really?
Because Switch,
Really? My screen glitch that sent me off the edge.
Made it mainstream, which it just fell off the radar on computer.
Yep.
Which is a crime.
Okay, alright. Relax. We got it.
Let's see how far I can crawl to.
Yeah, with like Dead Cells.
Before I either die in the storm or just die.
And I even told them in the interview, I was like, don't sleep on a Switch release. Like, this is going to be a big deal. And they were like, oh, we hope so.
I'm going to get to everybody.
I'm sure it's going to switch very well.
I would love to know the sales. I wonder if that's up there with the Steam version. Holy kids. That's crazy. Also, Derek, the most interesting thing about you, which was highlighted in the replay, that you acted in a movie with Bernie Sanders. The hell is this? I haven't listened to that replay.
Oh.
I heard second wind tale of this.
What are you up to today,
I was probably in kindergarten, and I played like a ring bearer in some like crappy $500,000 budget movie with Dom DeLuise and Bernie Sanders.
Why was Bernie Sanders in a movie?
I don't know. He had like a monologue as a rabbi at one point. They were like, oh,
Really?
like
Was he a politician at this point?
I believe he was. He was been like the senator for Vermont a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know. It was like, all right, I don't know, be in this movie, and he was like, okay, I don't care.
Okay, wait a minute. How did you get roped into this? Were your parents like, this kid's a star?
So
It was like a business associate of my dad.
That was a devastation.
He was like, oh, I think his daughter
That was devastating. Oh, God.
We were like little kids ago.
Okay.
Yep, I knew I
What's
didn't
the movie called? People look at this thing and see you acting next to Bernie Sanders? It's so stupid.
Well, I'm not next to it. I'm literally like an extra at one point.
Okay. So starring in the film.
So
Was it
freaking
my ex-girlfriend's wedding reception or something? Leo had looked it up.
Leo is nodding vigorously in the booth.
Okay.
It's just the letter X, though.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie Sanders style. X gonna give it to you. That's so bizarre. Cool, I guess. Congratulations to Bernie Sanders for starring with Dirk Swinburne. Jacob, I have on this piece of paper, you are proud of a feature about Patreon.
That's right.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to get paid. No, so I'm a really big fan of YouTube video essayists. People like Game Maker's Toolkit is a really popular one, or like Joseph Anderson is a guy who a lot of people have seen. And unlike kind of Twitch streamers or people who make daily vlogs, these videos take a really long time to produce, and so they can't make a living off of just the views that they get off YouTube. Because you get fractions of a cent for every 1,000 views or whatever, but that's not sustainable if it takes you a month to make a 15-minute video.
Right.
So they're making money from Patreon. They've got people, including me, who like the content and will toss them $1 a month or a couple bucks a month to kind of keep making the content that they do. And so I talked to Mark Brown, who does Game Maker's Toolkit, and Ian Danskin, who has a channel called Innuendo Studios, and Matthew Diason, who has Game Score Fanfare. And these are all kind of different gists, but all essays about games, and they're at kind of different levels. So Mark Brown's making enough money that this is very much his career. He doesn't need to do anything else, whereas Matthew Diason is making $200 a month, which is a nice bonus, but when it takes 100 hours to make one of these videos, which is what I found out that it does, that's not a sustainable career path. And so just talking about their different experiences, how they kind of interact with their viewership, how they pick what they're doing, and whatever was a really fascinating thing to talk to people about.
Yeah, for sure. Is that something you'd like to do in the future?
I mean, I have I have very little video skills, and
What are you talking about? You edited the B-roll into our Kingpin Spider-Man video.
I have professional level video skills.
It's at 300,000 views on YouTube, man.
I mean, so one of the things that I find appealing about writing is I can just kind of churn something out and put it out there, and it's out, and I can do that in like a week or something. And I feel like the challenge here is if I had a script and then was capturing footage and editing and this, I would just end up hating it every single time, you know, by the end. And I think that sometimes is kind of the case, you know, for them as well, where they're just like, just get this thing off my desk.
Right.
But the content that they're putting out is extremely high quality. I think it's, you know, it's a space where they can kind of talk about whatever they want because they have the financial support of a bunch of people who just want to hear their thoughts on things.
That's a rare privileged position for sure. What would you Google? Do you want to find that back?
It's called
Hey everybody, this is WWE
Economy,
Superstar
and it's on Game Informer.
Oh, neat. Welcome to Grammar. Okay, most fun moments your entire term. Correct. What stands out for people? Tonight, maybe E3, but we already talked about that. Is there anything else that stands out as maybe, okay, most fun or most educational? Where does it not feel like you really learned something?
We went to Summer Games Done Quick.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That was super cool.
Right into it. Today's
we weren't really covering it, but we got press badges, which made me feel important. And then
because I remember when you were showed up, you're like, I've never done that before.
My sister
I was Game Informer. I hand you a bread.
Like the three of us.
Any thoughts on how to tell them they're 100% totally wrong?
Just trying to figure out where to go, and Jacob's like, "Oh, where was Game Informer? Where are you going?"
We're there. And then they planted their lips on your face. You just got some boots up the wazoo. It's called. Okay, so you went there. What did you think about the event? Look, there's three forms of the word. T-H-E-R-E. Okay, the Cuphead run was the highlight. Yeah. As in, you're not here. You're somewhere out there talking shit. I mean, using improper grammar. That is fair.
Destroyed it in like 40 minutes.
That run taught me that Cuphead is secretly the easiest game in the world. Get form in there that you shouldn't use. Is there any way to tell them that they're... What about education? What do you think was most helpful throughout the internship? T-H-E-I-R. Just as simple as getting edits on features and... It's your sister and her fat dumb boyfriend. Their friendship doesn't know how to use proper grammar. Their friendship, T-H-E-I-R, is a complete moron. Their friendship is going to get a beating courtesy of CM Punk if I ever see him, and I'm not going to see him because he's not here. I have good news. You probably have a lot of great features you never spawns on your own. All right, today's the week. What do you guys want to do for the rest of your lives?
I gotta go back to games.
What's that? There. Oh my God.
Drew out the PS4.
Oh my God.
Can't make it back to
Getting this internship altered your future destiny at all in terms of like, maybe I don't like game journalism so much. Or to convince you guys of like, yeah, I wish I was dumb. I wish I lived
I think it definitely changed mine. I was basically
like a snow globe,
like,
full of stupidity. Hashtag, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Hashtag,
I went to school for art.
I'm gonna chisel in the proper use of the word there. T-H-E-Y.
I'm still doing it up until I came here and about to like work for a studio. And then I was like, I might get this internship at a game magazine. He was like, oh, well, I hope you did it. And then I got it. I was like, all right, well, I guess this is what I'm going to do now.
Are you going to try and go back to work for that studio?
I could, but I mean, I'm going to try and focus on doing games writing.
Oh, cool.
I love doing art, so I'm drawing and doing what I do. But yeah, it was kind of, I hadn't had like positive feedback, and I originally applied here and had an interview and then didn't get it for the term before.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like positive feedback towards my writing. I'm like, it must have been okay if I wanted to interview me. Yeah. Well, I'll apply one more time, and that'll be 11 times. If I don't get it this time, I'll move on to something else, or I'll write, try to write about games another way, or just freelance. Then I got it. I was like, well, I guess it was good enough.
Yeah.
I was like, well, now that I've done all this, most of the games writing and writing, actually. So,
yeah. Sorry, Art.
Yeah.
Well, later. Cam, do you have any future plans?
I've done some
a
couple freelance short things before this, which I really like.
Today.
My last semester of school.
Okay. Where are you going to school? Jacob, what do you think, man?
Well, in the near future, you can come see me at Old City Burger and Brewery in Durham, North Carolina.
There we go. After Jacob by name.
Good service.
I'm not literally.
I think one of the values of this is
maybe I'm a piece of shit.
You know,
I'm a
it's
bad
like
human being, but
even
literally,
if this is not, you know, even if I'm not writing about games or whatever, just like being able to sit down and like write a couple pages and have people read it and like it is like that is a really nice thing. That makes me feel good. So
oh, good. There we go.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to have instant feedback and know that a lot of
how can you think
people are
stop John
your articles,
nobody can
reading them and commenting on
yelling
them.
at
like Zang Beast.
He's literally on fire right now. He's literally on fire.
My mistake.
Literally on fire.
Very cool. But yeah, so
you go. I don't know,
like
spit on him.
it's just fun to write.
Literally on fire.
Yeah,
The man is going to perish. I got to go call John Cena right now and see if he's in the chair. Because if he was on fire, he would be. He's not on some sort of a street. He's not on a hot street. He's not just doing really good. He would be figuratively
right, which is typically how we run the industry.
Figuratively. It's used as a metaphor. Literally.
Anything else you guys want to say?
I don't even know how to explain it. Definition, literally. Like that.
Oh hell yeah! Follow me at Jakob.
I'm sitting here raving in this thing.
Jakob, that's
like YACOB.
There we go. All right, Derek.
There's a chance you literally.
Derek.
I can't explain that to you because you don't know the difference between figuratively and literally.
Long time ago, with my real name, just Derek Swinhart.
And you forgot about it?
Sorry.
Oh,
All right, Swinhart, you spell SWINHAR. There we go, Camden.
It's like at literally CJ 1997.
You're born? Okay.
Well, Leo in the booth, and on behalf of everybody in the Game Informer office, congratulations, you guys. You really did it. The bottle over his head! As well. Thank you for all of your hard work. We can't thank you guys enough. You really did it. One of the best intern groups. In fact, Leo, I think it's official. The best intern group of all time. Bar none, just the greatest. You're great at Avalon, we play last night at my place. Everybody really rocked it. Jacob was a hell of a Merlin. It's everything you need.
The bad guys really pulled a fast one.
And we're very good at that. Alright, thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We're going to wait for it. Bye, everybody. Bye.